What's up, y'all? You know what time it is. It's about to be that time.
Okay, everybody. Welcome back to another Theory for Theory. This time we have a returning guest. We have Mr. Morj. Now, this is our first one-on-one collab in over a year at this point. There have been 3 referees since we were one-on-one. We did do the Crocodile Summit, which was Morj, me, and Jay. What's that? Yeah, we did a Crocodile Summit. Morj forgets. We did it was... Alright, I guess it... We did that, then we did that. There have been 3 reveries, and... Because the last time we did the Theory for Theory, it was right before Gear 5 happened. Jay did his reverie, I did mine. Recon just did his. So a lot of things have happened in the story, and a lot of things have also seemingly been preventing us from collabing. We've been trying to do this for, I feel like, a couple of months now. Oh yeah, and it's been on both of us. It's not. We got really close that one week, but then the chapter dropped so early, and I was just like, I can't. So wait, they're saying Morj is muted. Oh, what? No, I think it's all on me here. Let's see, try talking.
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
There we go. All
oh
right.
My God.
I think they're going to be able to hear you now. Okay.
It's too late, man. The damage is done. They think it's my fault.
Right.
They're certain it's my fault.
Okay, so if you missed it, guys, you can hear Morj now. I introduced him and reminded him about all of these things, and he completely forgot that we had collabed for the Crocodile Summit. So then we were talking about that, and then we were talking about how it has been several weeks, maybe even several months of us like talking back and forth about collabing and things just getting in the way. Life.
Yeah, no. You guys, you guys are getting the second run around of the same conversation, so it's not as funny this time. But we've been trying to have this for like a little bit now, so yeah. But we got it now. We got a Theory for Theory finally.
Yep, we're here. And no, I appreciate you coming through, man. And let's see, rundown of some of the topics that I remember us talking about last time. It was right before Gear 5, so raid failing was definitely like something that that was discussed. Yamato joining, and both of our mutual agreements that they really shouldn't, because they didn't, hit all the they didn't check all the boxes of being a Straw Hat. I think we talked about a little bit of Vegapunk, some Reverie thoughts.
Can I get a quick refresher? So, this was all pre-raid sorry. Fantasy World. But, so we hadn't yet met Vegapunk or anything. That's crazy. I swear that we'd had it. I guess it's because we'd been in collabs in other formats that I didn't realize it's been a year in a one-on-one. But, damn, that's a totally different world that we were living in before we even knew who Vegapunk was, before we even knew that Egghead Island was going to be the next part.
I think it was right after we knew that the Gomu Gomu no Mi had a different name, but we also didn't know what that was, so we were kind of talking about what kind of things that would be. I think we were still discussing the implications of Kazenbo.
Oh my God. the implications of
the implications
implying
of,
that something's gonna happen.
right. We actually we thought that would amount to something, or at least I did. I definitely did.
I think I would have liked to have thought.
Same, and I still thought, maybe Marco would do something, but hey, this is all wishful thinking back at the early parts of 2022. I think that was.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of wishful thinking. That's true. But, we got the arc that we got, and I'm very happy with the current arc we've got. I'll say that's for sure.
So am I. And, I think that one of the interesting things here, obviously, because you're, the raid is, you will always be the raid is going to fail guy, whether you like it or not. I'm sure you've accepted that by now. And, but all of the ideas behind it weren't wrong. Like the line.
I like to think so.
The line of thinking, I said the raid should fail, but it won't, and that was just, there was a lot of context clues for that. But there's an interesting conversation to be had now in Egghead, considering there are so many Sabati parallels, where it's like we could actually have a discussion of, could the Egghead incident fail, and what that actually implies as a parallel to the archipelago, or are we getting a situation where they lost in the archipelago and now this is their win to make up for that?
Yeah, so funnily enough, I lean towards the second thing, right? I feel like this is the righting of the wrong, and actually I've got a video coming up this Tuesday talking about that, because I feel like this is very much set up to be so similar to Saboti Archipelago precisely because the idea is to show, okay, that's what happened once. The whole point of them going through, they had to go through from the time skip, getting stronger through the world, etc., is to bring them full circle back to a point where they can face previous challenges in a sort of upscaled sort of context, right? With this whole Buster Call times 10 situation and all of this stuff going on, and this time come out on top. So one of the things that I've talked about in videos that I think is really cool is like Saboti the beats are very similar, right? Luffy breaks some major rules, right? He punched a celestial dragon. Here he's kidnapping Vegapunk, and the way that it kicks off is so similar, right? First, they're in Saboti, they're fighting a pacifista, right? They're fighting pacifistas, Vegapunk's fancy new creations. Here, their warm-up battle is against the Seraphim. So they're also basically the upgraded version of pacifista, upgraded.
And we have the Mark IIIs as well.
Yeah, and we've
literally
got,
50 of them.
Exactly. But if you want to draw a parallel there, right, like, as the pacifista / Seraphim are dealt with, then Kizaru's coming. Well, there's such a difference in tone between how the pacifista problem was for the Straw Hats in Saboti compared to how the Seraphim were here. Like, here it's almost triumphant, I feel like. Like, we cut back to the Straw Hats chapter 1089, and they've got York all tied up and all the Seraphim taken care of, whereas in Saboti it was like, as soon as shit started going down, they were on the back foot. They were like, fuck, that one pacifista nearly wiped us out. They were in such a shaken up and state of distress by the time that Kizaru showed up. Whereas here, it feels so different. It feels like Luffy's the one rolling up to fight Kizaru. He's choosing to take on this challenge. It just feels like a very different energy here. Whereas before, they were kind of getting in over their heads. Here, they're like, we want this challenge. We're okay with it, and we're okay with everything that comes with it. So I feel like it's a righting of the wrongs. I feel like this is an arc set up for victory, personally. How do you feel about it?
I feel like there are ways to both win and lose in this. So we're definitely righting the wrongs of the past. We have, just in the latest chapter, Luffy flying in to take the visual, comparison role of Rayleigh zooming in and, kicking Kizaru, which was also on the 15th anniversary of that particular chapter.
Really?
Yeah, we can get into all of that, but I've created the Church of Math Piece now, where everything in the final saga has been particularly lining up with anniversaries now, and it's something that Oda's been doing since the very end of Wano, where it's either a character shows up because it's the character's birthday, or in a particular event is flipped on its head many years after that. Some notable things.
When's Mihawk showing?
Well, September has both Crocodile and Moria's birthdays, so I'm like wondering if in the next couple of chapters we'll actually have Moria joining the Cross Guild, Perona pulling up, and we'll see what's going on with those Seraphim. If we cut away to anything, it'll be that. Other than that, actually, one thing that I definitely want to get into with you is one thing we did talk a lot about in our first collab, first theory for theory, was Smoker, and I do have some nice thoughts on that. But some notable things that have happened on anniversaries recently are the start of the Reverie and the answers to the Reverie, exactly 5 years apart.
Really?
Exactly.
Really? You're saying like chapter 905?
Chapter 903.
903.
And then exactly 5 years later, Sabo sits down and the chapter ends with, "I'm going to lay everything out." So that the actual first chapter where they're at Marijoa is the perspective from Sabo. When Imu kills Cobra, it's uses their power. It's on the anniversary of Imu's first appearance. So they reappear in that chapter, and that's 5 years later. When Miosgard protects Shirahoshi, it's 5 years before Miosgard is crucified.
Oh, what's crazy? How that's really, really interesting. Did not realize that Oda's tying it that tightly.
Oh, he is. When Dory and Brogy use Hakoko sovereignty, it's on the anniversary of them using Hakoko sovereignty.
Really? That too?
Yeah, no. I'm dude. The fight between Luffy and Lucci is on the anniversary of their first fight in Water 7.
How are more people not talking about this? You should be tweeting each one of these.
I made a whole video. I mean, I'm kind of shadow banned by YouTube because I'm not doing content on a particular thing, so I'm getting lost in the algorithm. But it's a wild discovery that I've found, and it's leading to a lot of different predictions, because we're starting to get to a situation here where I think Oda's going to start focusing on things that are 1,000 chapters after said events. And we're only 6 chapters away from being 1,000 chapters from Smoker's introduction. So I'm kind of thinking that we're going to be getting Smoker soon, and that there's a narrative reason why he split Smoker from Tashiki. And it makes a lot of sense if Smoker ends up playing a role in Egghead due to all of the connections with Vegapunk. And that this could be the arc where we finally see Smoker switch sides.
I really, really, really hope you're right on that. I have... Okay, so over the course of Wano, I stopped without giving attention to all the characters that I felt that he would.
Your mic's cutting out a little bit.
Let me put the settings for anything. Hello.
Yeah, it might just be a positioning thing.
Move it a little bit closer.
Yeah, that's great. No, I can't hear you. I think you muted yourself.
How about now?
Yeah.
Just good? Alright. I'm gonna leave it like this, and then you let me know if I gotta change it again.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I will say this. One thing that I've gotten a lot of hope... my hopes for Smoker plummeted, but one thing I've gotten a lot of hope from the latest chapters has definitely been that I feel like the characters that have been around for a long time, right? So Aokiji, Garp, Kobe, Kizaru, even Sentomaru, we're starting to realize, like Vivi, Sabo, etc. It really is starting to feel to me like Oda has storylines in mind and has had storylines in mind for the vast majority of his side characters for a long time. And I feel like he was waiting for the final saga, which is more of an open world storyline than, you know, like a Wano or Whole Cake Island, right? I feel like this, if my hopes for Smoker had gotten low before, now they're kind of picking back up just because it really feels like he's starting to bring back in all of these side characters and actually paying them a lot of attention and having storylines come to fruition for them. And you're right that Smoker is very, very close by. For whatever reason, he is not brought back in with Tashigi. If ever there were a time for Smoker to switch sides, if ever there were a time for Smoker to reintroduce himself into the Straw Hats adventures, not necessarily joining the crew or anything like that, I feel like it has to happen pretty much this arc, because the proximity is just there. The stage is kind of set for the world to kind of open their eyes up to the world government, I think, fairly soon. So I do have high hopes for Smoker, but I'm not going to bet the farm on him joining the Straw Hat crew at this point. I think that it's very, very likely that the Straw Hat crew is actually close to finished at this point, honestly, if not already wrapped up, you know?
So even when we talked about this before, I've never been Smoker joins the crew, but
yes.
But Smoker allies with the crew. Or at the very least, 100% Smoker defects from the government, you know, and the Marines, because that's what his whole story has been lined up to be. You know, it's like you take a look at the East Blue, and it's a microcosm of a bunch of characters telling Luffy that it's way too hard to be the Pirate King. The One Piece may or may not exist. Why are you going after it? And then when we meet Smoker, he's the first person that takes a look at Luffy smiling on the execution platform and says, oh, I have to stop this kid. He might actually become the Pirate King, because he just did the same thing as Roger. So I think we need to flip that on its head, and he needs to get to a point in his, you know, ideology with Luffy where it's like, okay, maybe that's not a bad thing. I'm gonna actively choose to let this guy go about his journey now. And if that means I have to go up against them, well, they're proving to me that they are not the good guys here, because this guy who just helped a bunch of children, Dr. Vegapunk, needs to be murdered. Because...
Yeah. You know what? Sorry, keep going, please. Don't mean to cut you off.
No, I jump in there, man. I mean...
No, I mean, like... So one thing I've been thinking, I like that you brought up the Vegapunk thing, because I want to get your thoughts on this. I've always felt that there needs to be a big, singular event of sorts that opens up most of the world's eyes to the world government. Some sort of a trigger, something that... It's either on their end, like some sort of mass destructive event that they do, or flip side, some sort of information spreading event. Like, I've done videos about, like, maybe the destruction of punk records or something like that, or some way to spread information to people. I don't know. But you just brought up something like, okay, something more personal possibly, like Smoker just wanting to side with Vegapunk because maybe the personal connection is there or something like that. Do you think that we're set up for some sort of big trigger type event? Like, what do you think? Like, when they say the Egghead incident, that's getting me maybe too excited, because I'm like, could this incident be something that just literally changes the landscape of how everybody in the One Piece world views the world government? Or does it just mean Straw Hats beat Kizaru and the Marines and then they move on? Like, what are you thinking along those lines?
So, with that, that's a heavy idea, because I think it's a lot of different factors. And it pertains to which characters really could actually play a role in this. And I think one of the biggest things is we have Big News Morgan's on his way. And he, can disseminate information at scale. In 1074, he seemed really excited about not missing out on the next O'Hara. So that implies to me that him, Wapol, and Vivi are on their way to Egghead. So we'll finally get the Vivi reunion potentially right on the heels of 1,000 chapters since Vivi was introduced in 103. So 1103 could be a big Vivi chapter. And where we would then be 1,000 chapters from Little Garden. We're pointing towards Elbaf. So 1115. By 1115, I'm thinking we'll be in Elbaf. And there's just and chapter 100. 1,000 chapters from 1100 gave us Dragon. And the Revolutionary Army could play a role in this, and they have been heavily foreshadowed with everything. There's been so much focus on Dragon, so much focus on Sabo, and we're also right around the time that I'm expecting Smoker to come into the story, around 1097. We'd be in the anniversary window of the chapters where Smoker had interactions with Ace. So if we flip that and now it's Smoker having interactions with Sabo, the other fiery brother, then everything can kind of come to a head where you cannot deny what's happening here. You have you would have the Revolutionary Army playing a role. You'd have Big News Morgan reporting on all of this, and whatever happens to Vegapunk or not. So there's a lot of potential factors, and some of it sounds like fan fiction, and everything we were saying would happen at the end of Wano as well. But now, given everything that Oda's been doing and the way he's been manipulating the story, I think now's the time.
You know what's really funny to me is just one, I'm very excited. I want to buy into Matt's piece a lot because I like the idea of Smoker showing up soon. I really like the idea of Dragon showing up again at chapter 1100. I like the idea that we'll be at Elbaf at chapter 1115. Is that right? Yeah. Is that what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
By the way, do you think Egghead wraps like soon? Like when do you think? How much longer do you think we've got around for this arc?
I think Egghead wraps up somewhere in between 1103 and 1110. And then it's like right. we're on our way to Elbaf. We're catching up with a bunch of other things that are happening in the world at the same time, and then we finally land on Elbaf by like 1115. And like 1114 would be the introduction of Robin 1,000 chapters later. So that I could see a situation where it's like we're on our way to Elbaf, and that's when Robin, has a conversation about Saul's involvement in the world. Like that's. Especially if one of either the Stellar or a satellite rides with us to Elbaf, then that's where we could kind of get a conversation and really get into some like hefty Robin stuff. Because Shaka just kind of skirted past the idea of it being Saul. Obviously, we know that Saul is involved here, and Robin caught that, but the name was never dropped, and I could see Oda just like. It's Saul, and it's like, oh god.
Yeah. He's saving that for a chapter cliffhanger for a rainy day.
Yeah,
he doesn't have another one.
So no, you know what? I think that, or maybe 1014 is the reunion with Saul, and we get to Elbaf a little bit sooner. Yeah. And 1115 instead is when we run into Dorian Brokey, maybe.
Sure. No, it's just crazy to me that like Oda is so famously bad at giving timelines for his story, but then at the same time he's able to do stuff like this where it's clear that like he is able to chart stuff out pretty on the tee when he really wants to, but for some reason when it comes to the broader story of One Piece he just has no fucking idea like what 5 years means. You know what I mean?
Well, I also think that it might be a crutch for him too. I think it's a if I had to guess, like, and demystify the man, it would be like a way of combating writer's block. So it's what did I do 10 years prior to this? What did I do? Whose birthday is it this month? It's like, okay, it's crazy, man, because it's like when Blackbeard attacked Amazon Lily, 14th anniversary of the very first chapter of Amazon Lily. It's the Cross Guild chapter where we had a Crocodile Summit because Crocodile finally did something. Like, it was Crocodile's birthday.
Yes, I do remember this whole Crocodile Summit now, 100%. I just thought that the last time I spoke to you was during the drip tier list. I don't remember if that was before or after the Crocodile Summit, but
I think in a more like one-on-one setting, yeah. Like, you know, outside of reveries and everything, that was the last thing that we did, for sure. And, you know, we mostly talked about the drip. So
I just remember you saying like Captain Kuro, because I can't get this image out of my head. You're like, he's got doo-doo on his shirt. And so then when I'm never mind. I'm allowed to talk about it. When I'm watching the live action and I see the design of Captain Kuro in this, I can't get that out of my head, what you said about him, all the way back during that drip tier list. We'll leave that topic alone now, but...
Captain Kuro has
want to let you know,
you
you ruined the character for me.
Doo-doo on a shirt, man. That's just, it's... that... You can't deny, and... You know, looks like certain people also, accepted that.
I don't remember what we were talking about. What was the prior conversation? This math piece.
Yeah, just you know, just in general predictions for ways things could go. Like the issue number is the key thing for math piece, because it's like the dates will change no matter what, but it's the Shonen Jump issue number will basically span the week. So if it's in the same issue number, then that works. Like, one of the things, I think the next issue number is 42. What is notable about issue 42 is it's the anniversary of when Luffy defeated Lucci. And what did we just get? We just got the start of Zoro fighting Lucci. So if he just finishes him off in issue 42, then that's on the heels of that. We did get an unplanned break recently when Oda went to LA, so I don't know if that pushes things, so maybe it's 2 chapters from now, but either way, thinking that, you know, that's what Oda's going for. On the anniversary of Luffy beating Lucci, Zoro will beat Lucci. That kind of stuff is like, that's what math piece ends up being.
No, I could definitely see that. My big question for the arc, pretty much, because you gave the estimate that maybe around 1010 we're wrapping up here, which I definitely think 1110, which I definitely think is very, very possible. But the thing that I'm really curious about is kind of the matchups that we just got right now. Luffy versus Kizaru, Zoro versus Lucci, potentially some Straw Hats versus Vice Admirals. Are these the matchups that are basically like, are these the fights of Egghead Island, you know what I mean? Or is Saturn getting involved? Like, is this the warm-up batch, or are we at the climax, like, the final battle?
I think it's a warm-up.
You think it's the warm-up, too? Okay, because that's kind of the sense I'm getting, but at the same time, it's weird to call Kizaru a warm-up, you know?
So,
but Saturn's sitting there. It's just weird.
What I want is, I'd like to see Saturn get involved, and then Zoro, after he's already beaten Lucci, take the burden of Kizaru while Luffy fights Saturn.
I'm hoping it's Zoro and Sanji, if possible, just to kind of get them both involved there. Because it just feels like Sanji and Kizaru, that's something that Oda's got to know that the fans want that too, at a certain point, right?
I've always wanted Zoro and Kizaru and not Sanji and Kizaru.
Really? And you're a Sanji fan? That's very, very rare to hear, honestly.
Yeah, I've never bought into it outside of, you know, just seeing Sanji and Kizaru fighting in that one opening. I've always felt that there's more of a, like, Kizaru one-shotted Zoro, the man who's never supposed to lose again. So I feel like he's got to get back at Kizaru for that. Even though he was hurt from, you know, his fight with Kuma and all of that and the interactions in Thriller Bark, Zoro, to me, has always had more skin in the game fighting Kizaru than Sanji ever did. Oh, because they're both fast? I'd actually rather see Sanji fight Green Bull, because then it's kind of this, you know, parallel where he's getting his aggression against Zoro out against another Moss head. And that's like the hidden joke that I could see Oda doing.
Yeah.
And then the fire, right? We've already got the idea that Green Bull can kind of protect himself against fire. But what if he can't protect himself against, like, Sanji's Ifrit hotter than fire. So then the battle becomes a little more interesting. Whereas I've seen people say, "Oh, Zoro should fight Green Bull because he'll chop up all the leaves." I'm like, I think it's more interesting if it's Sanji.
I'm good with either one of those matchups, honestly. I personally don't want to see Zoro versus Green Bull, so him getting Kizaru instead would be great. You're definitely right in terms of a personal connection or dynamic. Sanji versus Kizaru, there's never been anything there. It's just one of those cool matchups on paper that you kind of want to see. So I get that idea, and we're even getting a little bit of that already in that who's Zoro fighting right now? He's fighting Lucci, who is also one of the few people that handed Zoro an L that Zoro never really got redemption against, right? So Zoro seems like he's going to get to check that box off. And, first we had Luffy versus Lucci, right? And then Luffy went to Kizaru. So it'd be cool that we're getting Zoro versus Lucci, and then maybe Zoro bumps up to Kizaru while Luffy moves on to Saturn. I think that'd be an interesting little progression. I do want Sanji to fight someone this arc.
I'll tell you who I want him to fight.
Lafitte?
Lafitte. Yes.
Yeah.
Heat on
That'll
Lafitte.
Be interesting.
That I want the two sneaky guys of their respective crews to get in there. And a tap dancer just fits Sanji's jazzy vibe.
I want Lafitte to fight somebody else first to establish in a vacuum, or not in a vacuum, but just separately how strong he is.
Well, he's Blackbeard's navigator, so if he does something to Nami, then it becomes personal for Sanji.
No, I mean more just establishing Lafitte as a threat, because we don't really know how strong are we supposed to consider Lafitte,
I mean, the guy snuck into Marijoa and was and pre-time skip and did not care that he was in the presence of Sengoku and a bunch of warlords. So I've always liked Lafitte a lot, and I would love to see a Sanji matchup. And
yeah, of Blackbeard's his OG 5, I think Lafitte is definitely. He was definitely the coolest, had the coolest introduction, coolest design, coolest personality by far.
Yeah, and he's been completely missing. He's the individual that we have not. We still don't know what his devil fruit is. We've gotten everybody else's devil fruit, and 1096, I believe. The recent break may have pushed which issue it is, but 1096 would be the anniversary of the last time we saw Lafitte. So if Oda's waiting for something, then he could show us in 1096.
And Oda wasn't doing this sort of thing during Wano, the lining up of the numbers in this fashion.
I didn't go back that far to see everything, but the problem is that Wano is so contained. What he did during Wano, Sanji's, big controversial moment in 1005, that was on Sanji's birthday.
Okay.
So it's he was definitely making sure that the characters were getting their focus on their birthdays and situations like that. But it only really works with the way that he's organizing the final saga right now, because we're jumping around and we're seeing characters that actually can correlate to these things. He's always had an affinity with numbers. He's always tried to make sure that some big moment happened on the hundreds, or sometimes it'll be on the 99 or the 01. He always tries to get it there. Sometimes he's missed and sometimes he's gotten it. But Wano itself, Onigashima, we know is 100 chapters. So that in itself is compulsion math piece.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
It lined everything up so that he could hit these anniversaries in succession.
It does make me wonder how long we actually have for the rest of the series at this point, because I'm I wonder what he's got planned for chapter 1200. What chapter because he's got to have a plan, I think, roughly for the chapter number that he wants to end One Piece on, right? This is a man that's very obsessive about getting certain numbers right. So I feel he's got to have it planned out. One Piece, the full series will end on this chapter number. I just don't know what that is in his head.
I mean, if he's obsessed with calendars, it could be 1231.
Oh, the last day of the year?
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. I had not thought of that. It's kind of funny.
But if we go beyond that, 1233 would be 1,000 chapters from Blackbeard's like face reveal. But Blackbeard's initial introduction in Drum, we just need to get to 1133 to be 1,000 chapters from that. So.
Oh. Sorry, by the way, I wanted to ask you about this. Do you have I'm thinking through Egghead Island right now. Do you have any theories on Katarina Devon at the moment? Or do you think that that's people are jumping the gun in assuming that there's an imposter already?
Well, I saw a bunch of people say that maybe Bonnie is Katarina Devon, and I kind of debunked that because I was like, she was talking about pizza, and that's my entire reasoning. I'm just like, we've seen Bonnie eat pizza a lot, and I'm like, okay, I think this is really Bonnie, guys. I love the idea of there being an imposter just because it's something that Oda really dropped the ball on with Mr. 2. Like, I feel like
Oh, yeah.
Like, we set up this idea that this guy could infiltrate, but then immediately once we meet him, we create a countermeasure to prevent that storyline from ever even happening. So, in this particular situation, no one would be expecting it. So, it would actually be more interesting and more of a reveal. But do we need it? I
like murder mysteries. I think that's fun. I think it's not a murder mystery, obviously, but it's like a whodunit style mystery, dinner party, whatever. I think it is weird to do it during, to start it during the final battle of an arc, because we're in the final battle, so we've got other priorities at this point. Maybe that is a cool point to do it actually, because then you can set up for a big twist. The one thing I'll say, I don't know if you've considered this, but like, Bonnie's her epithet is Big Eater Bonnie, so I feel like it is a well-known personality trait of hers that she eats a lot. Pizza might be specific, so I would agree with that, but maybe it's well known that she eats pizza. I don't know. Like, that is the thing that she is famous for eating. So if anything, it could be like if she's trying to impersonate someone, then like like if I were pretending to be you, if I had the devil fruit to do that, then I would probably have to default to things that you're famous for. Like, I'd say savage or something like that. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, maybe that's her strategy, But it might not be Bonnie just because it might be too obvious at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love for it to be a little more unexpected than that. But that would be unexpected because it's like, and not only that, it would actually make Katarina's fruit that much better than Bon Clay's if she can alter her size because of who she's turning into.
True. It'd also be really funny because like that means that Chopper has been pretending to stitch up everybody this arc, but in actually just Katarina Devon just faking it. She's like, why'd I pick him? Fuck. Yeah, that'll get you better.
Yeah, but then it just comes into, like, what are they after? What is the, I mean, I think they're there because Vegapunk has recreated the Mero Mero no Mi, and he couldn't get it from Hancock, so they'll get it there. So it's about the devil fruits. If they steal York, maybe she can recreate the stuff for, all the fruits that they need. But
yeah. Wait, random thought. Do you have any idea? Because I have none on this. Like, but do you have any ideas on Logia Awakening that are, I guess you would say, unique, that you don't want to say for a video necessarily? Because I've seen people say changing the weather and things like that, and I definitely think that that's a great bet, and there's context clues that suggest that could be the case. But at the same time, I'm like, do people have some outside the box ideas that are kind of interesting on this?
Sentience. So I've had this idea since we saw Karasu recently, and that he was revealed to be a Logia. So we've seen his crows go around and have conversations, and he's able to communicate through them and send them across the world. And, these crows picked up Sabo at the end of Dressrosa. I think that you're able to, when you can awaken, split a part of your body and give it its own sentience. And then we can kind of go back to certain aspects of like Akainu shooting out his hellhounds and how they kind of moved on their own as well. Pheasant Beak from Kuzan. We would just need to see, like, it's always been in like animal form. So it's like you formulate yourself, part of yourself into an animal, and then it kind of moves on its own. Smoker had White Snake, but he didn't separate it from himself. So he maintained control of that. But if he was able to like just throw a puff of smoke out, turn it into an animal, and then have it go and attack, then that would line up with my thoughts of awakening.
No, that is a great idea. That's a great point, because I took Karasu's stuff, I guess, for granted a little bit. I was just like, okay, that's a cool twist on Logia abilities, but I think that it would be really cool if that's a preview of what Logia Awakenings actually could be like, because at this point I'm just like, if we're going to see Logia Awakenings, Vegapunk has hinted about that earlier in this arc, right? We got the idea brought up within this arc that Logia Awakenings are some special, interesting mystery type deal. Luffy's currently fighting Kizaru. Admirals are about the best you can get in terms of if you want a Logia opponent. And yeah, I just think at this point we should find out Logia Awakenings, hopefully over the course of Luffy versus Kizaru, or at least by the end of this arc. So the idea that it's already been teased and shown to us through Karasu, I think that'd be really, really cool to see the Admiral start breaking out that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, and I mean, and even Crocodile, talked about like that there's different things that you're able to do with your devil fruits and mentioned awakenings, and it's just like that was the start of it. Yeah, and more on the like the math piece of it all. Alabastus, when we saw the first Vegapunk convention, and the first time that we see Lasso is the anniversary of the first time that we meet the Stella.
Dude, that's crazy.
When Kobe...
I've been saying that a lot, but that's insane.
Yeah, when Kobe uses Vegapunk's name for the first time, it's the anniversary of when we meet the satellites. So this stuff is too specific, man. It's way too specific. He's doing this on purpose.
That is crazy. Dude, that means... I wonder if... Like, how obsessively does Oda look at his calendar and his dates and everything like that? And I wonder how excited he gets when he realizes he has the opportunity to set up one of those things.
Dude, I was making the math piece video, and then it was just like every time I'd look at the chat, I was just like, oh man, he just did it. He just did it again. Oh god. And I was just like, I shot the video, and then I did a bunch of ADR because I kept finding new things, and I was just like, oh my god. Oh my god. It's wild. It's like theory breaking. If there's no confirmation that he's going to do any of this like 1,000 chapters later stuff, that's like my own invention of what he's going to do. But as far as like things that are lining up with the anniversaries, I think he's gonna continue doing that.
Okay, so this is sorry, I'm just looking right now. It's the video that you dropped 2 weeks. It's 30 minutes long. Math piece, deciphering the super theory, deciphering all of this. So that's the video I should check out, I guess, when I get a chance.
Yeah, I think you'll see the light.
Interesting. No, I'm very interested now, because like this is cool stuff to think about for, just everybody kind of likes to think about what's around the corner, what's coming next in One Piece. So this will be fun. This will give a lot of context. I like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's changing the way that we're gonna craft theories going forward. It's a lot of people were, making comparisons to like Uteron. Now I don't watch, I haven't seen any of his videos in a really long time, but his stuff was always like very like pun based in the Japanese. And this is just very like factual, like this is happening on the anniversary of this. I'm not looking at the number in Japanese and saying that, oh, this means this and means that. No. Like Oda is just copying himself. He's just inverting what he did. And he's just like, I'm bringing this back. And everybody's saying Goda, and they're not.
That's so funny. You can literally, like, when you've been doing this for so long, you can just copy yourself and people will go nuts for it.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah. No, he built this. He built this so he could do it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We got a couple of super chats that I just want to get into here. Aether said, think Morj talked about punk records being destroyed and info spreading for own reason. I think Kizaru will play a part in the info spread. Do you think that Kizaru destroys punk records?
So I mean, this was just something that I talked about. I did a video like Luffy might trigger the end of the world a little bit a while back. Again, it goes to my thoughts that you've talked about Big News Morgans, and I think that that's the more, like, how do I say? That's like the more straight, like, how do you get information out in the One Piece world? It's Big News Morgans. This is more so me looking for an idea of something that could be a little bit more maybe explosive. I think that'd be fun if Oda decided to go that route. So the idea that punk records being destroyed can somehow release information in some way to like brainwave type shit or something like that to share Vegapunk's knowledge of the wrongdoings of the world government with the rest of the outside world kind of in one big fell swoop. So that's an idea I was throwing around. So this guy, Aether, is saying Kizaru could do it. I personally really like the idea that if Punk Records is destroyed, I would love for Luffy to be the one to do it, just because, you know, it's Luffy. Like, I think that's the more... Otherwise, it's sort of like just a world government member making a mistake. I like the idea that intentionally or not, Luffy just does something, right? Just punches something or something like that, and it just flips the whole world upside down with the type of information that's released. And Luffy's obviously not going to give a shit about it. Like, whether he does it on purpose, whether he just does it on accident while beating up Kizaru or Saturn or something like that. I really like the idea because it's in line with kind of what Luffy has done throughout the rest of the story. So that's my personal take on that.
Well, I like the intentionality of it because it wouldn't be the same vibe, but it gives me a callback to Luffy destroying Nami's room. And, specifically if it's noted that Kizaru wants something from Punk Records or wants, to maintain the integrity of the computers and stuff. And it's like, oh, you guys want this stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, then I'm going to destroy it. So it's kind of like the Noah, it's the Noah, it's Nami's room. It's just, I'm just going to keep busting this stuff up. My dream scenario, and like the best case scenario for me is there's a lot of things that have been set up. Like Vegapunk wants to create the internet. And he wants to be able to send information en masse to the world, which is what we're talking about here. But I think there's intentionality to Vivi being with Morgans in general, because if Vivi does come with us to Laugh Tale, hypothetically, which I would love, but she is respected throughout the world. So if she is the one that, after Robin has gotten, the information translated, if she's the one that puts her name on it, puts her voice to it, and then sends it out, if Frankie carries on Vegapunk's will and like creates the internet for him or something like that, and we kind of get all of the crew working together towards this, and the information gets out, using Big News Morgans, using Vivi, using Vivi's connection to Big News Morgans, then there's a reason for a lot of these characters to be tied together.
Wait, I want to jump on that real quick. What do you think of this? Do you think that do you think that Lily had the pawpaw fruit?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think of, because this is a video that I did recently, and it's very similar to, I think it plays into the idea that you were just saying. Like, because I definitely agree that Vivi's strongest role that she could potentially have is being the voice that spreads kind of the truth in a way, or at least makes people believe, because she's a queen herself of Alabasta at this point, right? So her being a voice that can communicate with leaders of other governments to kind of rally them or spread the truth or something like that. I think that's along the lines of what you're saying, like lending her voice to that.
I think that no matter what, the best thing for Vivi's character and Vivi's role is she can't go back to Alabasta. She's being hunted, so she can't go back to her people until the world is fixed at this point. So that puts like sort of a timeline onto all of this. But her ancestors played a role in the way that the world is. Whether Lily wanted to defect from it and like fix things after the fact, I get the impression that Lily was involved in the inception of all of it in the first place. So I do buy into the idea that Lily had the pawpaw fruit. I've been working on a video for a couple of months and things have been getting in the way, and I've been making other videos, but I'm going to go more into like all of that based on theories and ideas that I came up with Daxake through another theory for theory. But I think she had the pawpaw fruit. She sent all of the poneglyphs around the world using it, and everybody has thought, because of the 2-9 theory, that Vivi was going to get the Nikyu, and I think that Oda is flipping that by, he'll just have Lily have had it.
Yeah, I guess my thought was just that, because I put out a video talking about how I think that Vivi will get the Nikyu. Right, she would get it, because I think Kuma's days might be numbered. Don't know. It is the final saga. Oda is more willing to kill characters, it seems like. So my thought was that Vivi could get the Nikyu, and then just, like, the best ability that fruit has is being able to teleport yourself pretty quickly from island to island. So my thought was that she could go personally communicate with like a lot of the leaders from nations to basically be this universal diplomat or ambassador to basically be like, this is what's going on, we need your help, etc. So I really like that idea personally regarding Vivi's role. But at the end of the day,
a great idea, especially if she was also like doing something where it would require a lot of stamina. But I mean, like, that's something that you could also milk for emotional value. But if she was like going to these islands and then using the fruit to teleport other people to the final battle.
Just get everybody together.
Like, she's just the Doctor Strange in Endgame. It's just like she's going there and it's just poop, 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 and then we're just like, she's like about to like die because she's used so much stamina to make sure that people are fighting in the final battle. But meanwhile, she's like the secret MVP. I would love.
Yeah, that'd be so cool if that was because Oda's written Vivi in, like, I've always said, like, he's planted her in the story really early for, like, some important reason, right? It was important for some reason that the Straw Hats are, like, there's a secret Straw Hat that is also, a well-respected, like, figure in the world, like, not a secret pirate, basically, but somebody who can actually have political impact and play the world stage in a way that they, as criminals, could never do. So I just feel like whatever her final role is, Oda's got to have been thinking about that, like, way far back, like, in Alabasta.
Alabasta, when you look at it in the first place, it set up everything that we're dealing with now. It's when we first learned about Avoid history. It's when we first learned about ancient weapons. It's when we first learned about Vegapunk inventions. Even if it wasn't necessarily named and we had to go back to figure it out. But, I mean, it's the truth. There's so much endgame stuff that is thrown into that arc. And those characters are all coming back in big ways. So it's just he's finally getting to flex what he's wanted to flex.
Yeah. Definitely agree. I mean, how does Egghead? You don't have to like rank it or whatever, but how do you feel about it as an arc so far? Just in general, I guess, how it stacks to recent arcs or in One Piece in general or post time skip or however you want to say it.
For all of the callbacks, my enjoyment level is very high. But I am very disappointed at the mini time jump that we did coming back to Egghead. And I feel like that's the bad side of Math Piece. Because it's like, we got away from like a lot of tension, like Frankie being half petrified, Usopp being petrified, S-Snake saying that she was going to go and hunt, a bunch of other people. It was just, there was a lot of despair going around and, uncertainty. It's like, are we going to lose here? Like, what's happening? Only to come back and it's just like, nah, we're skipping all that. We're good. And it's like, I actually like when Oda sits in that despair a little bit. Like, I love the fact that we won. I like the Yonko flex. I love that. But I like earning it as well. And it's like he left specifically to hit anniversaries and different things with other topics, because that's just my headcanon now, and then came back so that he could be right here for all of this stuff to hit at the Archipelago anniversaries. So it's just I appreciate the manipulation, and then I'm also a little upset with the manipulation because I'm like, are we sacrificing story for the math?
I definitely agree with you in that sense. I mean, you know, I'm 100% on board. I like the idea of them having to sit in despair for some period of time. I think I give that almost I'm with you 50% on this, I'd say, because because if it was any other arc, I would definitely be more like, fuck, I can't believe we skipped that part. Because it's kind of, I view this as like the warm-up arc for the final saga, I'm like more okay, I suppose, I'm like, the seas are gonna get rougher from here on out. So I'm like, okay, this is the warm-up arc. If this
is the real part of the arc anyway. But
this is the climax.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just like, the final saga, they still got Blackbeard, Akainu, etc. It's okay if it didn't get that heavy this arc. I'm cool with that. But I definitely feel like some of the things like the Bonnie Kuma flashback, I feel like I just feel like it was important to tell us how certain things were resolved, because like, how did you find York? Like, everyone was in a bit of a pickle earlier. Like,
yeah,
just answer like, what was the resolution to that? How'd you figure out? Like, how'd you capture
Robin
York,
is battle damaged.
Yeah.
Oda had Robin not fight anybody for 16 years, and then apparently she just fought somebody else and we off-screened it.
Yeah.
It's like it's that kind of thing, but I mean there's more Robin to come, and we're about to be close to the anniversary of the Robin flashback as well. So if like we get a situation where Robin finally drops, what Clover couldn't and gives us the name of the ancient kingdom, that'll line up like right around chapter 1100, based on certain things. So I think there's a lot of stuff for Robin to do. So, we'll get that. I think everything we're going to get from here is just going to be like way better than what we would have gotten. I think my issue is more the way he ended it off without, just a little more closure to some of the topics and the promises that he was, setting up.
I wonder if we get some quick flashbacks that'll cover that, because I mean, out of everything that happened, I could see him skipping it all, but we need the Kuma flashback. Like that is a must. Cannot skip. That's a must.
That's a must. Yeah.
So I like to believe because of that, we will get a little bit of a look back as to what happened, right? And I think maybe even the Devon aspect of things, maybe that's why Oda's choosing to hide what happened, so we can go back in time and find out, and then like that sets up for a reveal or something. I like to believe. I always like to believe that certain things are gonna play out, but
I would like Zoro to play a role in all of that, considering he had the most interaction with Kuma out of the crew. He was the first person in the crew to meet Bonnie, and I'm surprised that Zoro and Bonnie haven't had more interactions or even a conversation about her dad. It's like I really wanted Zoro to go into the Paul room and being, the only person in the crew that would actually know what that is. Brook too, because he watched the whole thing. I thought that's what they were setting up. I thought we were going to come back to Punk Hazard, and it was going to be like, we were going to come back to Egghead, and Zoro was going to get lost, end up in the Paul room, have an interaction with Bonnie, then, like Brook's ghost would fly in, and then maybe that's where some sort of fights would have happened, things like that. Maybe we do still get something to that degree, but I don't know. I just hope that Oda gives us something related to Zoro.
At this point, we're almost done with Egghead Island, and Frankie and Vegapunk haven't even had like a meaningful interaction. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like,
I wanted Frankie to get destroyed because of the stone, and then Vegapunk would have had to rebuild him, and then we finally would have gotten rechargeable lasers and all this other stuff. It's like
most likely we do get those, but just like off-screen explanation as to how he I hooked myself up with some rechargeable lasers and stuff. just the way.
Talent Domi super chatted, appreciate you, and said, been watching you both for years, and you two are the only One Piece YouTubers I really watch, so this collab is sick. It's not much, but here's a token of appreciation for both of y'all, and split it between each of you.
No, that's not how it works. But when I have Randy on my stream next, maybe you could do it the other way. But that's Randy's cash. But thanks, man. I appreciate it.
David Cott, member for 2 months, said Bogard was introduced to chapter 92. Can we math piece this? I mean, maybe Bogard's in, 1092. I don't see that happening, but here's the thing. I know there's a lot of like Bogard hype that's been happening in the community.
No, there's not. It's just Parvision.
It's Parvision. He's pushing his propaganda, and it lit a fire. And one particular thing has been pushing that even further. But but Oda, Oda definitely forgot this man. All right, Oda definitely did forget this man. Okay, other people didn't forget who he is. But Oda did. He's been reminded recently, but that doesn't mean he's going to change the story.
I just hope the next time that we see him is like him having been defeated off screen or something like that. Like that one Vice Admiral Bartolomeo beat in the bathroom. That's my hope for Bogard.
He just gets Maynarded?
Yeah, just Maynard him basically. That's what I want to see.
Oh man. Sampat said, I've asked this before, but what are your thoughts on Conquerors? Mine is that it is NOX for hockey.
What is that?
I don't know what NOX is. Color of Arms is the sky splitting, and Color of Observation is the Voice of All Things. I could definitely see Voice of All Things tying into like advanced observation, but
yeah,
splitting the skies. The Rio is so strong that you're splitting the sky.
Yeah, that's just a force thing, right? That's just their attacks are so strong that the force is splitting it. NOx stands for nitrogen oxide, so that's not very helpful here.
That's what I thought. I thought maybe it was like something in another anime or manga that like some other power source that is something that I haven't read.
I just think Voice of All Things is some really advanced observation hockey. The same way I think that whatever Charlie does is really advanced observation hockey. I think almost everything that's supernatural in the story comes down to either devil fruits or hockey, basically.
And I think that I think there's a real world application to Conquerors, and I think that that's really the inspiration from it. Oda is a fan of Michael Jackson, and this is one isolated, instance. Even in East Blue, you see like Django is very much inspired by Michael Jackson, but it was very like notable that like he would get on stage and he would perform, and people would pass out because they were in his presence. So I've always felt that like Conquerors is just like Oda utilizing these like superstars of the world and the effect that they have on just everyday people being in their presence. So I know everybody wants like, a more anime and manga answer, but like that's just, I think that's where he got the idea for it, is that.
No, that's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about, the potential, because Oda very clearly is influenced by a lot of celebrities, both, all the admirals are modeled after famous Japanese actors and stuff, but then there's so many United States celebrities that are also written as well. And I think Oda's very much fascinated with just like popular media in general. So I could definitely see just Michael Jackson having that effect, having some level of influence on, him thinking up that sort of ability.
Yeah, could be off base, but there are real world instances of like people having Conquerors hockey. Let's see. Will of Davy said Math Piece doesn't back me on this, but chapter 60 was the formation of the Richie Pirates. I hold out hope for the future Cross Guild King. So Richie's going to take out Crocodile and Mihawk and Buggy and and become the leader of the Cross Guild. Yeah, I'm here for it. Diz of the Ghost, member for 26 months. I'm curious if the fact that Luffy's boots are malfunctioning is important. Oda wouldn't point it out otherwise. Is there anything we're forgetting that could play a major role twist-wise? Diz said, great collab. Appreciate you, man. If somebody else activates the boots, Luffy will be the one that can still move. That's the only thing that I could see. You know, if York gets free, you know, and then like everybody else ends up getting stuck to the floor, and Luffy would still be able to move because his boots are malfunctioning.
Yeah, makes sense.
Zote said, I'm not late, Cap. I was mentally preparing for this clash of emperors. Our battle will last for 3 days and 3 nights. Thoughts on Loki or Ragnarok in One Piece? Well, I mean, we're getting to Elbaf soon. I am not anticipating Loki being a Chad. I think Loki will be like one of the more like goofier, like I think it'd be like a goofy Oda character more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, the Usopp potential there, I think, is pretty strong, right? The potential tie-in with some level of character dynamic with Usopp, or representing something, because, you know, the idea that Loki, as far as I know in Norse mythology, doesn't line up with a lot of traditional values from that culture, right? At least my vague understanding of Norse mythology. More of a trickster than a, you know, than a brave,
which totally fits Usopp
warrior.
You know, if they go, you know, exactly, you know, 1 for 1 with Loki, like that could be a thing where all of these other characters are having their own personal journeys and everything, and Usopp's having his own battle against Loki that maybe, I just thought of this, but I mean, it would be interesting if there is really like a Ragnarok style event happening on Elbaf, or there's one that's about to happen that Loki's going to cause himself, but Usopp, like when he fought Chu, no one saw it, and Usopp actually saves the day off screen by taking out Loki. You know, like that kind of thing. And then it proves to himself that he can be brave, and no one actually needs to see it. It's just, it's a personal thing. He just needs to realize it.
Yeah, I mean, some of my favorite Usopp moments are moments where, like him sniping Sugar and Dressrosa, beautiful moment because it's a silent contribution, and I think that those are easily my favorite moments for the character, when he throws away the sense of, you know, braggadociousness and just bravado and feeling like he needs to command respect or anything like that. I like the idea that when Usopp's able to just slip into his role of being support, just the sniper,
loyal,
to do things that are not, you know, frontline star of the show type stuff, but at the same time just be able to, you know, like perform as a brave warrior of the sea without needing the praise for it. So I really hope that we get to see something like that in Elbaf for sure.
Yeah, and I'm starting to think that Blackbeard will play a major role in Elbaf. I think that his affinity for archaeology is not going to allow Oda to prevent him from being there, and I expect Elbaf to be a reasonable arc, you know, maybe, you know, at least 20 if not 40 chapters, in which case we would be 1,000 chapters from Blackbeard's introduction. So if he came into play, then we could have an interaction there. Whether we win or lose, we have to see where we're at that particular time, but it would make sense if we're going to have a Ragnarok style event or a battle royale. You know, let's get the emperors playing roles. Maybe the Cross Guild is in Elbaf as well. Maybe Shanks.
Okay, so do we still think that... I still believe that Shanks will be in Elbaf, right? Despite, I think, some discussions of him leaving the island or something like that by the time the Straw Hats get there.
I don't think he'll be there when we get there, but there's an opportunity for him to pull up.
I think that would be good just because, you know, the Straw Hats can get there and we can focus on their, you know, meeting the locals, etc., the Giants, and put the spotlight there before Shanks returns or something like that. Versus if the red-haired pirates are already there, then we don't give a fuck about the locals at that point. We just want to see the Straw Hats, red-haired pirates interactions. But I definitely think that the Straw Hats and red-haired pirates, I'm definitely penciling those two in for being the center of the Elbaf arc. The idea of Blackbeard being there is interesting because on the one hand, I'm kind of like, my personal preference would be no Blackbeard that arc. I would like to just see Straw Hats, Red-Haired Pirates, maybe in the context of a Davy Back fight. But at the same time, it's like, if I look at Little Garden, right, depending how hard we want to think about the parallels to that arc, it was an arc about, you know, two characters, Dory and Broggy, wanting to have like an honorable duel, like two friends, two equals, etc. And then there's this mischievous, evil third party that's kind of throwing a wrench in the works, which is Mr. 3. So in that sense, we could see something like that with Straw Hats, Red-Haired Pirates, and then Blackbeard is this kind of playing spoiler in some sense, and, you know, sets up the Shanks-Blackbeard conflict, which I think most of us have penciled in.
What I would
could
actually
definitely see the potential for that. Yeah.
What I would actually like, and I still stand by this, and will, you know, die on this hill, is cross-skilled Davy Back. And so we get to Elbaf, we're having a cross-skilled Davy Back. We're literally fighting Mr. 3 on, you know, an island of giants after we've already fought, you know, something with giants. And then in the middle of that, that's where Blackbeard could come in and throw a wrench against the already dishonorable duel that's happening between the Cross Guild and the Straw Hats. And then Shanks would be the last faction to pull up if he does.
Interesting. I mean, as long as we get some Yonko on Yonko action in Elbaf, I'll be happy. And I really think that is set up to be one of those really huge potential for just having various Yonko crews show up there, because Elbaf is one of those islands that is separate from the world government, right? So it's almost just like, it's easy to make it a battleground. I mean, Norse mythology, like we're talking about Ragnarok, that is just like the idea of a huge battle. So yeah, I'm liking these ideas.
Yeah, no, I just I love the idea of just having I don't know. I've talked about the Cross Guild Davy Back a bunch, and I've got a video that's going to come out for it.
Well, what do you? Oh yeah.
But I think that's how we get Zoro versus Mihawk.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on board for that for like, I've thought that Luffy Shanks, Usopp Yasopp, Zoro Mihawk, I think all of that happens at Elbaf. I felt that for like, it's like way back when I put out an Elbaf video. But one question I have is like, what do you think about Kid? Because Kid is technically, I don't know if this is like even worth discussing, but at the same time, I just want to know your thoughts. Like, Kid is technically at Elbaf, right? Not on Elbaf, but underwater in the vicinity of Elbaf. Do you think that his story is wrapped here? Do you think he's going to play some level of relevance in the Elbaf arc, or is it something down the line? Or
I think people hoping for more relevance with Kid are asking for pain. I don't mean that to be mean, and you know, I get grouped in with the Kid slanderers a lot. But the thing is I think that the plans that Oda had for Kid from the start was always to be a vehicle for hyping up Shanks. So I'm like, I'm going to build this character up, and then I'm going to use him to show how strong Shanks is by just having him like one tap him. The only thing that I would want to see if Kid comes back is him like literally admonishing or even murdering Heat and Wire for like giving the rubbings to Shanks.
I don't know if he'd murdered them. But
I mean, that is one of the worst things I've seen in the series. Like, it is so against every theme in the story that Oda basically told us that these guys aren't built for the end in the first place, because his crew is a representation of him. So if his crew is so ready to be like, we give up, here are all of our captain's hopes and dreams, then what we've seen here is the complete annihilation, and the annihilation of the dream as well, of the Kid Pirates. So they don't need to provide anything. If Kid is having some sort of an epiphany in Elbaf and he helps out, whatever. he's not going to Laugh Tale. He's not becoming the Pirate King. He is not even on Luffy's level to the point where he needs to be involved in this. There's a reason why Oda showed Kid and Law lose. And it's to show that these guys aren't as important as we think they are. Now, granted, there's still opportunities for Law. I still think that he could be in Sword until Oda tells me that he's not. But now maybe he joins the Cross Guild and we just continue adding warlords to this organization. In which case, if the Cross Guild is in Elbaf, then Law would be a part of all of this as well. So it's just, Perona's got a connection to Mihawk, so Perona could bring Moria over to Empty Bluffs. Crocodile and Moria both go up against their Seraphim at the same time. Law arrives because Beppo swims over and lands at Empty Bluffs. And then it's just a situation where all of these warlords are there. Maybe Hancock gets involved as well and, reluctantly, teams up just as a temporary thing until she finds Luffy and then, disbands from them. But there's a lot of emphasis on the warlords in general. So I think that they're, we're talking about the emperors, but it's warlords are a huge part of this as well. We're on the heels of an Impel Down 2.0 because Marco is on his way to go get Weevil, which means that Doflamingo is going to get out at some point, maybe Mr. 2. It's just who else is going to be involved in that and who else is getting out. And then are they also going to bolster the Cross Guild to the point where now the Cross Guild is this really massive threat of just an Impel Down collection of all the enemies that we've already fought versus enemies that we haven't ever fought, really one-on-one, the Blackbeard Pirates. And then we have Shanks's crew who realistically we're not going to fight outside of maybe Exhibition.
Yeah. No, I mean, Cross Guild is quickly shaping up to be... They're currently, out of all the 4 Yonko crews that we can cut between, they're my favorite one.
Yes.
I mean, the Strats we take for granted, right? Strats are... We know these guys, but it's easily my favorite when we cut over to Cross Guild, just because their interactions are so much fun to watch. And I think throwing literally anybody else, if you threw Doflamingo in there, that would amplify the entertainment value by 10. So if we're throwing all these guys in, Kid, even Weevil, all of these guys, it just becomes more and more fun because we love these characters. It's just that the way One Piece works is we don't get to see them that often, so getting to see them all in one context and trying to get along and trying to actually work together to compete for One Piece, I think Cross Guild is easily one of Oda's best ideas for the final saga by far.
Absolutely, it's my favorite thing he's ever done. I'm and that's not hyperbole. I love the Cross Guild. Yeah. I love all of the characters that are involved in the Cross Guild, and the potential for what that story brings is it unlimited enjoyment.
Dude, yeah, even just the actual it's not even he's just taking it for fun. I'll just have these characters bicker and fight. The Buggy chapter was some great writing, and it casts a spotlight on Mihawk and Crocodile. Yeah, what's up? You guys gonna be in on this? But Buggy's telling the truth at this point. He's spitting at this point. You guys gonna listen and you guys gonna, step up and actually try and compete for the One Piece? I really love the writing potential that we actually get from grouping these types of characters together.
Yeah, and it's nothing any of us could have theorized, and that's my favorite thing about it. I would have never thought, okay, Crocodile, Mihawk, and Buggy are going to, create their own force. And the fact that there's so much potential to continue adding people to that, and we're going to get focus on characters like Mr. 3 and even Alvida, Kabaji, and Emoji. They're just going to pop up, and it's this is exactly what I want to see from the story, because it's exactly what makes Impel Down one of my favorite parts of the story.
Yeah, dude, Impel Down, Marineford, that stuff was surreal. Just see, but it is a very much a replay of that. Just seeing all of these past familiar faces come back together and, have to interact for a common goal, even when they're not all friends necessarily. Just recapturing that feeling is definitely going to be one of the most fun parts of following Cross Guild. I agree.
Let's see a few more chats here. Trevor M, do you think Blackbeard pulled up for Caribou? I think that's it's the Occam's razor. It's so obvious if Caribou is working for Blackbeard this whole time, but that's why I like the idea of Caribou being like a secret cross guild plant, and that he was always Mr. 10. Because
that's
Oda's
an interesting idea.
Oda's drawing for Mr. 10 looks like Caribou.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Let me take a look.
Yeah, if you like Google his sketch for Mr. 10, and it really looks like a hypothetical pre-time skip Caribou.
Oh, yeah. It is. It's just Caribou. it's really close to him, at least. Yeah.
Caribou has been present for hearing about 2 ancient weapons, and the character in the story that has been like actively chasing after the ancient weapons is Crocodile. So like that's the fun idea to me, that Caribou reports to Crocodile. Killer Comedy TV, member for 3 months. Like D stream, more likes for 200. We appreciate it. Yep, show that you're feeling the vibe here. David Cott, who's more likely to show up in Egghead, the Revolutionary Army, or the Straw Hat Grand Fleet? In what context can Luffy and Dragon reunion happen? Went into the Luffy and Dragon reunion happening in Math Piece. We're also, there's 2 ways, whether it's 1,000 chapters from Dragon saving Luffy from Smoker, whether it happens there, or it could happen a couple of chapters before, if Oda wants to like have it happen on the anniversary of Garp laying out all of the information about his family in the first place, especially if Dragon like drops some like mom lore or something, like on the anniversary of him learning about his dad, he learns about his mom, something like that. I don't know if the Grand Fleet shows up here. I don't know if it's necessary. I'd rather the Revolutionary Army show up.
Grand Fleet versus Revolutionary Army here is it's a tricky one, because it's kind of like it totally changes between those 2 options. It's not like either of those groups can just. The Grand Fleet showing up basically changes what the arc is, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter how you spin it, we're looking at the Straw trying to make an escape here, right? We're looking at them basically. They beat Kizaru or they get some wins or whatever, and they get out of there. If you have the Grand Fleet show up, then it changes from escape plan to just they're gonna try and wipe out the Marines. Like they're gonna try and wipe out that. It's a war, full-scale battle at that point. So it's a totally different game if the Grand Fleet shows up. I'm not at a point yet where I'd be like, that's what we're getting out of Egghead. It would be cool if it happened, but just if the Grand Fleet shows up, then this is just an all-out war, and the Strahds probably it's not an escape plan anymore, really. So I'm gonna say a Revolutionary Army slightly more likely, I guess, but I don't really know. It would be cool, based on what Randy's saying, if Dragon were to show up with maybe some Revolutionary Army members or something like that. But it's also hard for me to imagine the exact context of Luffy and Dragon's reunion, because it's not like Luffy and Shanks, there's a clear path. Luffy's trying to get back to Shanks, give him the hat. Luffy and Dragon, it's just, we don't even know Luffy's opinion on Dragon. We don't know. There's just so little to work with. His opinion,
as far as post Netty's lobby, was, I have a dad?
Exactly. It's just...
yeah. It's not going to matter either way. And it's... I also ascribe, to the theory that Robin is Luffy's half-sister. So...
Whoa, what? What? Whoa.
I mean, I like the idea of it. And I think that he would rather like come and save Robin beforehand. He shows up to Ohara with flowers. It's like those could have been for Olvia, not Clover. They're both the same age. The timing works for all of it. Dragon calls Robin the light of the revolution, and was more interested in hearing about her than Luffy when Dressrosa was over.
I guess to that I would say, like, he showed up with flowers because like a million fucking people died there. So it's just, a nice thing to do.
I think if we were ever going to get if we were going to get any sort of like family, like, oh wow, like something else was supposed to happen in the story, I could see it being that.
I could see that. It's also just though, like, Robin was with them for Dragon's got more of a relationship with Robin than Luffy at that point, so that's why he'd be more interested, in my opinion, in like what's going on with her. But, I could see that. I think that's cool. I prefer the idea of there being no Luffy-Robin connection, just because I like the idea that at the end of the day, Luffy, everything he did at Enies Lobby was purely for just someone he called a friend when the rest of the world viewed her as a demon, versus making her his half-sister secretly. I think it... You know what's kind of crazy? This is really random. Jabura made up that lie about Robin being his sister or something like that during the Sanji fight, which is kind of funny.
Yep.
But
anyway, I like it from the
possible.
perspective of here's this character who lost their entire family, and then it actually turns out that she's been with her family this whole time. And
yeah, but then I'd like it better if they're not her actual family. Like, she found a new family without it actually being her family. Because to me, that's more powerful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's power. I don't think it would actually change their relationship at all.
No, it wouldn't. Like, Luffy's Luffy. He's not going to care about that.
Be like,
And
oh, all
Robin's
right,
not
cool.
gonna care about that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things I could see Oda throwing into the story to be like, oh man, it's that's it.
Yeah. The Luffy Robin shippers would die off pretty quick right there. Except for the weird ones, they'd cling on to it. But that's a separate discussion.
It definitely is. David Cott asked, what's Boa and Rayleigh's next move? It's a great question, and I honestly, I don't even know.
Yeah, that's just something where I'm like, Oda could call... I assume that Boa will be on Luffy's side anytime the final war rolls around. I just don't know if that was like a quick setup to establish that, or if we're actually going to have her show up. And some people have said join the Grand Fleet. Some people have said, all sorts of things. But I feel like she's not going to be showing up like tomorrow to help Luffy or anything.
Oda's clearly got a plan because her fruit is important. It's just, it's more so figuring out what needs to be depetrified. And that's... I can't even begin to speculate until I have more context on what's going on with Hancock, because Oda's really keeping those cards close to his chest. Atlas 100, in reference to what we were talking about back in Elbaf with Usopp. Usopp not taking the credit at the end of Syrup Village was great too.
Yeah.
And let's see, Sampot said, I meant like Conqueror's Hockey, back to the Conqueror Hockey stock and then Noxide. I meant like Conqueror's is steroids for regular hockey. It's nothing on its own, but mixing it with Color of Arms and Color of Observation supercharges them to sky splitting voice. So I maybe it's, combining all three gets you something.
Just a super beam or something, like just a giant energy blast that you can shoot or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Junas asked, will Eminem play Anel in a certain thing? And my answer to that is absolutely not.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. Old Green Knees, did I miss the VV theories, Captain? You sure did. But
you can find them. You
Yeah.
can find them. Yeah.
And then Brian Field just sent a sticker. I appreciate that. What are your thoughts on Kuzan at this time? Like, now that we've gotten all of this stuff with Garp, I know that you were actually a little bit hesitant to say that Kuzan was in Sword when we spoke way back, and I was pretty into it, but now I'm also like, I don't know, is he?
I think, first of all, I'll just say, I loved the entire Hachinosu raid from what happened, but also just what Oda did with the characters that lived between Garp, Kuzan, and Kobe. I thought that was phenomenal, and I'm sure that you really enjoyed that as well. Like, that was, to me, some of my favorite writing that Oda's done, period, in quite some time, at least for me personally. So with Kuzan, he's quickly turning into, especially after that raid, he's turning into one of my favorite characters to look forward to, I suppose, to their next appearance, because I feel like we're going through that sort of a setup where we know the character at their core is not a bad guy. Oda's making them do a lot of really, really questionable things, but also making it very clear that he's hiding their motive for some unknown reason, which makes me feel like we're at that part of their arc where we're supposed to be doubting them to some degree, or maybe even just being very questionable or uncertain about why they're doing what they're doing, etc. And then their true intentions will be revealed at the conclusion of some important storyline or something. That's what I feel with Kuzan at the moment. So in that vein, I don't necessarily feel like... I feel like almost not being a member of SWORD and instead choosing to do something that's kind of really outside the box or outside the Marine jurisdiction completely, like just really having seized his own sort of personal mission, I would find that more interesting than him being a member of SWORD. But again, if this turns out to be some like super top secret SWORD mission or something, I'm cool with that as well. I just love what we're getting with Kuzan and the fact that right now, like again, the guy that we know is not a bad person, right? He's actually one of the most
I'm still the same me.
And like, right? Like
I'm still the same me, Smoker.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love this character. I love where we're at with him. I just don't, like, whether or not he's part of SWORD, I just know my personal preference, which is I would rather he be doing something that's truly his own agenda, something that he's decided. I don't care if everybody else views me in a certain way. I don't care if nobody knows the reasons why I'm doing this. I'm just going to do it because I know it's the right thing to do. And that's why he's following the path that he's following. So that's my personal feeling right now. So what are you thinking?
So, I mean, I love the idea of him being his own faction and following his own justice. But I'm also kind of wondering if maybe he's secretly part of the Revolutionary Army now. And
yeah.
And he's infiltrated Blackbeard for them. And then it would kind of create an interesting conversation, because then both of Garp's sons, because I consider Kuzan to basically be Garp's son in the same way that like Zeph is, Sanji's dad, and Shanks is Luffy's real dad. Like, I mean, what they've set up in Hachinosu is that as a mentor, he was also basically a father figure. And that's kind of like what this fight is about. It's a mentor-mentee, but also someone that you can look at as like a father figure. And it's also even challenged now in the recent stuff with Sentomaru and Kizaru. But what I like to go back to is, that Smoker scene with Kuzan, or saying that, it's easier to see things when you step outside of the restrictions of the Marines and everything. But when I was researching Math Piece and I was paying attention to like certain panels, I really noticed a visual similarity to Chapter 100, where Dragon grabs Smoker and stops him from attacking Luffy. And Oda completely redoes this when Kuzan shows up and stops Doflamingo from attacking Smoker.
Yeah. You're that's actually a very good point. I'd never thought about that before. Sorry if I'm I'm just tweeting out the stream, which I should have done when we started. I completely forgot. But
no worries, man.
That's a really good point you made.
So
I totally forgot about that. Like that little parallel.
Yeah, so one thing that I'm waiting for is Smoker to stop someone else from attacking somebody that's being sat on. Because it's like,
you think finally Smoker gets to be the third one of those?
Yeah, because he's been the attacker in Loketown. Yes. He's been the person being attacked, but he hasn't been the protector. And if we look at the situation, the first instance is Dragon, a revolutionary, stops a Marine from killing a pirate. Then we have Kuzan, whose affiliation is unknown, stopping a pirate. Let's say for fun, a revolutionary stopping a pirate from killing a Marine. And then lastly, we need some sort of a variation of that where it's either Smoker as a Marine is stopping a revolutionary from killing a pirate, or stopping a pirate from killing a revolutionary. Maybe he stops someone from killing Sabo. Maybe he stops killing somebody from killing Dragon. Or maybe Smoker, because we haven't seen him for a while, maybe now he's a revolutionary if we're getting really wacky. Yeah. And then he takes that role and he's stopping a Marine from killing a pirate.
Oh, dude, that would be awesome if he as a revolutionary is stopping a Marine from killing a pirate. That would be so cool for his character. Like, just bring that. Yeah, that's the perfect reversal of how he started out. I would love that.
Yeah, so that's kind of that's where I wanted to get with the conversation for sure. Is I don't see Smoker becoming a pirate, but I could see him becoming a revolutionary, and then that would actually be an even stronger parallel to everything at the early parts of the story, and why Dragon would be thematically relevant in Loguetown to begin with. Because it would actually encapsulate Smoker's full journey against the government.
Yeah, I think that, like, last time we spoke, I was kind of more dug in on the idea that, like, I need to see Smoker as a pirate. I'm not at that point anymore, partly because my expectations for the character have dropped significantly, so now I just want to see him have some level of a character arc. It doesn't need to be specifically what I think is the most meaningful or whatever, and him being a revolutionary is... like, just going against the world government in general is meaningful. I'm biased because I love the idea of, like, introducing this character whose catchphrase is practically, never trust a pirate, I hate pirates. Like, that's what he says quite a bit throughout Loguetown, Alabasta, etc. Like, that's just his thing. Like, fuck pirates, basically. I just love the idea of his worldview slowly changing to the point that he himself is a pirate by the end, because he just stops caring about the label. He realizes the labels don't matter, and whatever he needs to do as a pirate, basically. But at the end of the day, it's also just like, at that point, being a revolutionary, like, if he's really trying to change the world, being a revolutionary just fits more in terms of what would line up with the necessary actions to bring justice, like, you know, like, versus being a pirate. I just love the idea, though, of taking a guy like that and then bringing him all the way over to the pirate side and making him see the light there.
And that's where we've always seen eye to eye, you know, from that perspective. And if Kuzan is a revolutionary and Smoker becomes one, hypothetically, in this, you know, scenario, I'm not really putting, you know, money on this, but we could go back to that conversation at the end of Punk Hazard, and that would be the inception of it. It would be Smoker talking to his friend who he trusts, and then, like, now he is drinking the Revolutionary Army Kool-Aid, and Smoker is, you know, like, has always been on the, you know, the fence with all of this. Everything in Alabasta, you know, they can go and eat shit, like, all of this stuff, like, I'm not taking this credit, and just getting fed up completely to the point where now he's a part of them. I don't know. I think it's a fun journey. But then again, I also would be hesitant to have Smoker's reintroduction in, let's say, hypothetically, Egghead, be him already as a revolutionary, and then missing the actual turn of it all.
No, dude, we need this can't be like the night that we just skipped of, you know, whatever the fuck happened at Egghead Island. I think Smoker, I believe that we will get the moment for Smoker, just because I think Oda has been hard delivering recently with the way he's done his side characters, right? Like, we got great stuff for Garp, great stuff for Kobe, great stuff for Buggy recently. I like to believe that we will get whatever the aha moment is for Smoker. I hope we get that, because if he just shows back up as a revolutionary, that would be a deep disappointment, personally, for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, and I think that's why it's more powerful if Smoker is revealed to be a part of all of this, and then in the midst of everything, once he learns, like, what the, you know, the true mission is, it's to kill Vegapunk, and then he sees that Luffy is actually trying to protect this guy, and now with the interactions that Smoker's already had with Vegapunk, he has a moment of change, you know, and then chooses to help them escape. So it's like he could be that barrier between him and the rest of the Marines that allows them to finally, like, set sail in the same way that Dragon stopped Smoker from letting him prevent him from going, setting sail. So there's a lot of like fun things that can be played with that, even if it's a situation where the VV blimp shows up and like that's the come with me if you want to live moment, and that's how they get out of this arc. I want things to get to a head where, going back to how we started this talk, I want them to win, but I don't want it to feel like it was a complete win.
So one thing that I've thought about, I'm kind of hooked on the fact that the way they took out the Seraphims. So one thing that I've thought about is basically like how much it's stressed that the Seraphims are not at their full potential, and Oda really sidestepped them having to actually defeat the Seraphims by using the bubbles instead, which to me is a really, really interesting sign, that because that's clearly a temporary measure. So one of my thoughts, like when I see that, I think one of my thoughts is simply that like we've still got this looming issue if like at the end of the day the Gorosei will have
complete authority.
The ultimate authority over the Seraphims, right? I personally, I'm kind of with you with the idea that we get a victory, but it's not like they're leaving with sunshine and rainbows, but more so like, okay, they're gonna escape here essentially, right? They're gonna get by Kizaru. I don't know, permanently defeat or whatever, but they're gonna get by Kizaru. They're gonna get by this blockade, etc. They're gonna be out of there. The government can't just capture them. But I like the idea that things end with maybe Saturn finally making a move or something, or like the Seraphim being freed and Saturn taking control of them, or even the Seraphim being aged up in some manner. So we're kind of leaving the arc with, okay, we won the battle, but there's much bigger problems up ahead or something. Like I just have this thought of the arc closing with us seeing all of the Seraphim fully aged up or something like that, basically. And they don't fight him, but that's kind of one of the final things that they're seeing on the way out of the island. Just because there's been little teases of that, right? The Seraphim are in the bubble right now. They're not actually defeated. They've talked about how the Seraphim are not at their full potential. Bonnie can age characters up and stuff like that. I know that this isn't really making sense in terms of how it would all fit, but I'm just kind of looking in terms of, I feel like this is going to be an arc where they get by some stuff, but we set up for greater problems in the future. Like maybe even the government being able to pick up another Mother Flame or something like that, basically from Egghead, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting where you're going, and I agree with it, and I love the idea, and would prefer that the Seraphim remain a problem that we have to deal with. Because you go back to like 985, and there's Kaido giving a speech talking about how the government has something that they believe could take him down, he was basically, the way he was going about it was like, I need to strike them now because they really think they're onto something. And if we're able to defeat these things, handedly and all of that, that just negates all the tension that Kaido and Emperor put on them in the first place. So if Saturn gets back to the island, uses his authority chip to, flip the thing, and now we're having actual meaningful battles against the Seraphim, that could be fun, especially because the people that would be fighting the Seraphim are not the monster trio. They're going to be, they're going to be locked up in other battles, as far as I can see. So it's an opportunity for growth for some of the weaker characters in the crew to kind of struggle and all of that. I would love a situation where, it's like even the Sunny gets damaged. So it's like not like, oh man, we can never sail this ship again, but to the point of it's actually hard for us to leave now because they've damaged the ship, which, we kind of get the tension there. Maybe that's where the blimp comes in. Maybe that's where some other sort of like ex machina comes in that allows us to escape. And then part of Elbaf is like using the tree to rebuild the ship. I want us to, it's just throwing ideas out there.
I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, let's lose something here. We have 100 battleships here. Even if we can beat Kizaru and that's our win. But if if all of this, the satellites die and the only person that's left is Stella, that's kind of a loss. If there are other people that, that die as well that we don't, who knows?
Yeah.
There's, there's ways to like just add some gravitas to all of this.
I definitely agree. It's just that at the same time, I'm like, I just wonder if Oda is saving more of that for the further we go into the final saga. But I would welcome it in this starting arc. I just don't know if this is where he wants to start, start setting that tone. You know what I mean? So it's kind of... I'll take it either way, basically. As long as we get more of what you're talking about over the course of the final saga, I'll be happy. Like, the strides can't be this unfazed and this, like, upbeat the entire way through. Otherwise, like, I would love to see us get back to, some Enies Lobby levels or something like that. Or even fucking whole cake levels of tension, please.
Exactly. Here, give me a second. Keep the chat busy for a moment.
Oh, sure. All right. Let me take a look. What have you guys been talking about? Why are you guys even paying attention? Why are you asking about Gojo versus Sukuna? Bunfagum, it is good to see you in this stream, though. Gojo versus Sukuna. You guys, we're talking about One Piece here. All right, let's see what other stuff you guys are talking about. Repair the Sunny at Elbaf with Atom Wood sorry, I can't speak. Yep, I agree. Egghead ends in the Straw Hat stronghold being blown up. I mean, they're not going to keep Egghead forever. I don't think the Straw Hats even want it. It's not like it's Luffy's permanent island. Although it does have infinite food for him, so maybe he would like to keep it, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. Arcade Kaiso says, do you think Gojo won? It's funny because, like, in the eyes of Gojo fans, I'll just say I'm neutral in this Gojo versus Sukuna debate in terms of, like, having a preference for either character. But I will say that Gojo fans are the most annoying fans in... Like, they're some of the most annoying character fans that exist, period, across all mediums. So, if anything, outside of the series, it biases me a little bit against Gojo. But I like Gojo. It's hard to dislike the character, right? I will say that Gojo fans seem to feel like it has already been proven that Gojo is stronger, and now if Sukuna wins, it will only be thanks to cheating. But it has already been proven that Sukuna is stronger. I still think it looks like there's going to be a reversal next chapter because it seems like almost too clean, right? So I think Sukuna will win. The question is, did he do it fairly or not? I think it ultimately depends on whatever his true ability is, and like was there some restriction that stopped him from using it earlier or something? Like, I don't know. I think we need all the information, and then, if we get all the information, then you can declare, Sukuna was a fraud, Gojo's the GOAT, etc. But, like, just wait a little bit, Hey, we didn't talk about One Piece while you were gone. We talked about Jujutsu Kaisen, because for some reason that's what Chat was talking about. So you didn't miss anything.
All good. Thanks, man. Shout out to Philly. Said, not saying Smoker can stop Kizaru, but it's hard for light to pass through smoke. That's interesting. But I mean, there's still hockey though. That's the hockey.
Dude, it's so funny how people react at the end of certain moments, because like, we ended that one chapter with Sentomaru seemingly stopping Kizaru and everyone freaking out like, oh my god, this makes no sense. How's Sentomaru doing this against Kizaru? Blah, 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 blah.
When he didn't do it to Lucci.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but it's just like the very next chapter, Kizaru gets by him like immediately. So it's like, it's not a big deal at the end of the day. Oda needs to end the chapters with some level of cliffhanger. He's just got to do what he's got to do.
Yeah, well, it was also the anniversary of Sentomaru's introduction, and the anniversary of their first conversation as well, indicating their.
That is crazy. I've said that like 50 times this stream, but that is, I mean, each time you pull out a new, this was actually the anniversary of X, I'm like, wow, that's...
There's only a 1 in 52 chance that it could be the anniversary, so it's just...
Yeah. No,
the chat is saying the math piece is real. The math piece is real.
It is. It really is. That means that I feel like we're gonna get so many, like, that means that over this stretch, right, we're gonna get so many situations that feel similar, I guess, to the Marineford saga, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I guess I could look up issue-wise where we are, where we would be in Marineford.
The thing is, Oda takes so many more breaks nowadays. It's never gonna line up like that. But it's
Well, he's been taking the breaks to actually have it line up is the way that I've been feeling. But he's
That's interesting.
That's my that's my conspiracy theory with all the breaks. But I do feel that the recent one that he took where he went to LA, that was like the only one that he didn't plan, because it's the only one that broke the scheduled breaks for the year.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Let's see. I'm just putting a random Marineford chapter into the wiki to see kind of where we are.
I mean, Marineford / Saboti / like that whole section, you know?
Okay, so funny enough, I randomly picked chapter 555. I was just like, that's kind of around Marineford. And turns out that was issue 40, which is the issue that we just got. So now I'm going to... I have no remembrance of what chapter 555 was. I just knew that that was like the number of...
Yeah, 555 is going to be... Because I think the war started 552, and then 553 was like...
So this is the chapter with Oars.
I knew. Oh, no, never mind.
And Doflamingo cutting off Oars' foot, and then it ends with Moria attacking. So, hypothetically speaking, like, the math piece of it all would be that the next chapter would be the continuing Moria's attack. So, like, if we saw Moria in the next chapter, it would be like, oh, on the anniversary of him attacking Oars. But let's see what 556 is, because that would be like whatever the next chapter is. So we see a bunch of warlords in this chapter. It's Doflamingo's speech.
Oh, it's that one.
556. Okay. Garp saying, Ace, why did you not live the way I wanted you to? And Luffy arriving from the sky to Marineford is the last panel. So I would say like the math piece thing here would be if someone arrived like in a weird way to Egghead in the next chapter, then it would be on the anniversary of Luffy arriving to Marineford. But you know, that's as we get further in, yeah, we could have some Marineford parallels, because we're at the start of Marineford, and we're also kind of at the start of the battles of
I mean, yeah, we're facing down a big fleet. Like, same thing, right? Facing down a huge-ass fleet, Yonko crew versus the Marines. It's pretty similar. Also, yeah. Roger's base is in the chat. Nice to see you, man.
Nice to see like two of my faves right here.
No, I saw Roger. I saw you in the last Reverie, even though it was in a very crowded environment. But yeah, nice to see you.
Roger said, "I'd love to see someone new arriving." Yeah, hey man. There's a lot of opportunities. Morj and I have been talking about Revolutionary Army showing up, Smoker showing up, Vivian Morgans and Wapple showing up, and there's a lot of really convincing evidence for all of it. And like the next chapter, the anniversary from like the archipelago, would be the we have to run chapter. Like, so if we saw in the next chapter Luffy saying we're not running, then you know, like that's the way that's the way I'm getting into Oda's head about all of it. It's like everything was so bad back then, we had to run. Now we're on the anniversary of that, and it's like, no, we're gonna stand and fight everybody. So if the Mark IIIs get, you know, now that they've been switched over, they come in and now everybody's like actively choosing to fight them in the next chapter, then we're on the anniversary of everybody choosing not to fight them.
No, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That would be I think that'd be like the way this is setting up feels like just the perfect mirror to those events, but just with the souped up, buffed up crew at this point. So I hope we get a line like that.
John678 said Oda, quotations, I gotta take a break to make math piece work. That's what he did. It's
a good reason for him to take, like, you know, it's a good excuse for him to take breaks at the very least.
Yeah.
Got to make the story line up a little better.
Roger said, also I propose a Morj alliance with our makeshift plushies so we can overtake Artur's globe. And,
dude, you don't understand. Artur gets the win. His globe idea is so much better than just it's such a good idea, right? The globe idea, because I would potentially buy that just for having a One Piece globe, you know? Whereas the Morj plush is ugly. So it's like, you really got to be supporting hard to buy a Morj plush, you know what I mean?
the Morj plush is on your wanted poster, dude.
Yeah, I see. It never fails to make the promotional material for everything. I think.
Roger said I need to make a plushie. Yeah, well, I think I need to focus on not being shadow banned by YouTube first. gotta pump these numbers up. Then makeshift will be interested. Let's see.
Yeah, I think some more supers here.
I missed one. Let's see.
No, but Arthur's plush is cool. I think he had a great idea with that.
Yeah, no, it is a great idea. I think some of the it must have been like incredibly difficult to like actually make that.
Yeah, no, I mean I don't know if a One Piece globe plush even existed prior to that. Probably not, right?
Yeah, no, but I just mean from like the accuracy. Like I'm sure like the file that he made was accurate, but I mean like when they're like making it, like the accuracy, I wonder how it translates. John678 said, what do you think about the pole shift theory? I don't know that one. The map direction had to be deliberate. No way all of the editors missed it all the way to the Tankabon. I don't know the pole shift theory. I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's an interest. If you want to do, I did a reaction to this. It's a Japanese YouTuber. She did a theory about, like, it's called like the ultimate theory of One Piece or something like that. If you're not ever planning on doing I did a reaction video to it just because it seemed like it was getting good views and that people wanted me to watch it. If you're not going to do a reaction to it, I can just give you the gist of it right now. If you do want to do a reaction to it, I'll just, or watch it on your own time, then I'll leave you to that.
Is it something recent to where people would be interested in a reaction, or has it been around? Because then there's no point in doing
Let's see.
it.
So I did a reaction. I don't know. Let me see. Ultimate One Piece theory. I did my reaction to it 2 weeks ago, actually. So not bad. I think the theory video itself, though, has been around for 5 months. So
I would say just give me the spark notes.
The gist. The idea is basically that the shoot, now I'm kind of remember. Oh yeah, okay. So just imagine the One Piece globe flipped, right? So Grand Line would go north to south, Red Line would go east to west. I think that's what it was, unless I might be completely butchering what it was, but it was something like that. Just reversing the poles or switching the axis or something like that. Some of the key reasons were the word for longitude or latitude in Japanese is actually is red line or something like that, but red line normally refers to equator, whereas in One Piece it's a longitudinal line or something. So that was an argument she made, but there was stuff that was somewhat convincing. The big thing that got me towards the end was the maps of Jaya and Skypiea. You know, there's a map of Jaya, there's a map of Skypiea that Nami fits together. The polls are wrong in that. So, like, I forget exactly what it was, but Jaya, it's showing, like, you know, you connect the two maps, you get a skull, right? But, you know what I'm talking about? You connect the map of Jaya to the map of Skypiea, you get a skull. But
one of my
on the bottom map...
reveals in Skypiea.
Great moment. But on the bottom map, the polls are incorrect. Like, one is saying this would be north, this would be south, whereas the top map, it's the other way. So the skull wouldn't make sense with the two different map orientations, I suppose. So that was the big thing that kind of got me towards the end. I was like, that's a huge clue. The thing that kind of made me shift my mind back was then basically some people explaining that the timelines don't line up and that the Nolan journey up there or whatever, it happened well after the Void Century, therefore this can't have been something that happened 800 years ago, stuff like that. So now
what are they ultimately trying to say? That at some point
the whole thing flips back or something like that, and that's kind of the close of One Piece. So it's interesting. I found the video interesting. I did think that a lot of the evidence that she used in the middle was kind of dicey because it was references to Disney World's like Splash Mountain, like all sorts of weird references and stuff.
Hey, I made a reference to Michael Jackson in this stream today.
That's different. I don't know. I'm iffy on that one. The Skypiea thing kind of convinced me for a bit, but then people told me that the timelines don't line up, so now I'm just back to neutral on the whole thing. I'm like, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Mm-hmm. It's one of those very extensive, well-researched One Piece videos, though, which is why maybe it's worth a watch for your own interest. You know, those come along once in a while where it's like, even if I don't believe necessarily like Uteron's theory, it was a good watch back when I watched it, just to get an interesting perspective. And at the end of the day, it'll point out some things that you hadn't thought about before, whether or not that fits into your overall beliefs about what will happen in the story. So,
I still haven't watched that one because I stay away from ones that are like about the One Piece specifically, or where it is or anything like that. It's just that's like fair. Yeah. It's the one thing I just want to stay surprised about. Like I'll theorize, you know, current arc, next arc, whatever. But we get to the end, I'm like, just let me experience this. Caleb H saw a video from Middleway. I don't know that person saying the egghead incident would be Kuma using an Ursa shock against Marijoa to transfer back all the pain they gave him. Well, I mean, that wouldn't be on Egghead. If he's using the Ursa shock against Marijoa, then
maybe they might mean the Egghead Island arc.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they're saying that this video is specifically saying that the Egghead incident is what Kuma is doing on Marijoa, which would be the Marijoa incident, is what I'm saying.
I'm reading it now. Yeah. That's not...
I mean, like, I initially thought that Kuma attacking that was like a ploy, and that was what was going to draw Kizaru away from Egghead, because it's like, oh, he's attacking Celestial Dragons, so now we need all the admirals to come back to Marijoa. Seems like that, you know, very specific plot thing that we got in the archipelago doesn't apply here anymore.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. I think I am caught up on chats. There's
this
one
guy
in regard.
L gave one, but I assume that's one that we can't talk about. Is that correct?
Yeah, I will say that the answer to that question would be Alabasta Saga.
Yeah, I'll just go with if I can say anything, I would say I would say Alabasta would translate well out of everything we have left. And things beyond that might be very difficult, but who knows? That's all I'll say.
It's all pretty doable. But
it is, because it is. I'll just leave it at it is. Yeah. But what's easier is probably Alabasta is the most doable probably at the moment.
Yeah, despite what people may think. And yeah, man. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about this collab. I'm feeling pretty good about, winding some things down. Anything else that, has been jumping out at you recently, or any theories that you've had that I might not have seen that you're particularly proud of?
Let me think for a second, because if I take a look real quick, there's a couple. One is about. I want to bring up something relevant, if there's anything relevant to talk about Egghead, but I think we've covered most everything that's relevant to Egghead. The one I did want to talk to you about was about Vivi, and we basically covered that. So I think beyond that, I think there's nothing crazy. Unless you've got something, but I feel pretty good about the collab as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been hard to watch a lot of videos from everybody, just because I kind of hide from the internet now that I'm official. So I end up not taking in what everybody else is talking about unless I'm collabing with them.
Okay. Wait, when did you switch to official?
Right after I did my Reverie.
Really? Okay. Why'd you do that? Just to be official?
It was in part to please to set up certain interviews and things that never ended up happening.
Okay. Still, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, it's just playing the game, pleasing people, and lining myself up for particular content. So, at some point.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of topics. I mean, I'm sure I'll think of something later, but we can collab at some point and talk about things that I can't talk about.
Yeah. Or maybe after certain things wrap up on your end, basically. But, yeah. I mean, I think with Egghead, we're at a certain point where it's just like whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, basically. Like, there's so many things that are up in the air, and yeah, it's just whatever happens next is what's gonna happen next. So all we can really do is wait and see. But yeah,
either way, it's an exciting time.
Yes, dude, this is the most exciting time to be a One Piece fan, I think, in like the entire time that I've covered this series as a YouTuber, if that makes sense.
I agree. It's like we were on the precipice of some real hype moments in Wano. The last time we collabed, but it's like now we're getting into the stuff that I feel like, and I mean, you even said it yourself, that Oda's been wanting to do since the very beginning, and that's the exciting element for me. And everything we've been getting, always the best parts of One Piece, for me at least, is whenever we've stepped away from the Straw Hats and seen everything that's going on outside, and then that's what informs and makes everything else that's going on with them even better. And we've been overloaded, and we've been given so much of that, and I think that that's not going to stop. We're just going to continue getting more of that. So it's really exciting.
Definitely agree. Like, I'll always say that to follow the series week to week, this is before I did YouTube or anything like that, following the series week to week, Marineford will always stand out as the craziest to me, or the most exciting to me, and I don't think that can be topped, just because that was kind of the storyline that opened up my eyes to what, like, that was kind of the storyline that made everybody start to understand, oh, this is what One Piece actually, like, you fully you got the big picture, right? Like, everything got pulled back and you started to realize, oh, this is the full scale of everything that's been set up, and this is kind of like, One Piece is just going to be the greatest, I guess, fantasy. It's building to some huge fantasy war, pretty much. It's got all these factions. It really opened your eyes to how big the story could be.
Yeah.
This section of the story we're at is going to be, I think, just as exciting, because it's actually delivering on the concept that Marineford set up. So Yeah, I mean, this whole section of the story, I think, is just going to be like recapturing that sense of Marineford, I think, for me, especially as we move to the final segments.
Yeah. For me, like the most exciting times in the community for me were early Water 7.
I was not weekly at that point. I think I caught up right at as Luffy versus Lucci was going on in the manga. So I really want to hear your perspective on this for sure.
The conversations online of who was going to join the crew was like the most involved that I've ever seen, because it was like the arc was essentially, we need to get a crew member. So it's never like, is this person going to join? Is this person going to join? And all of that. But it was like, it was actually like all of this active reasoning of Paulie, Frankie, Lucci, Kaku, like before, the twist of it all. So, and then the crew dynamics and everything that was happening. And it was just, wow, we're really like getting into some really intense stuff here that we haven't dealt with before. And it was very dense dialogue wise. And I also really enjoyed Impel Down weekly, but not so much Marineford. I did enjoy it. It was a great time. But weekly, it was really tough to be a Marineford reader because everything was double page spreads, and I wanted more, and I felt like I would finish the chapter in 3 minutes.
You're definitely right on that about Marine. When I refer to Marineford, I'm usually talking about the whole saga. So starting from Sabaody, like Amazon Lilywood kind of brought everything to a halt, but I still enjoyed it. But yeah. I'm talking like Sabaody through that period of time. I definitely remember Marineford because I would actually have to watch it through YouTube videos for whatever reason. That I just don't think I had good access to chapter scans or something like that around that time. I forget exactly what the deal was, but I know what you're talking about. Like, or maybe that was for spoilers or something, but there were a lot of chapters that happened in Marineford where it was kind of like, oh fuck, that's it. But then the highlights really stand out, and the overall feel while reading that saga weekly was crazy.
And it's
I want to ask, like, yeah, good.
I was just to say, I mean, it's no disrespect to the arc being a masterpiece. I mean, on a reread, a rewatch with one pace, it's
with one pace.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, but it was very hard as a weekly reader because you just wanted it to keep going, and instead of the normal 16 pages that you would get, it was just 8 because they were all double page spreads of just these like massive chaotic moments. So the read went by real fast. What were you gonna say?
No, I was very curious with the Water 7 situation. What did you think? First of all, who did you think was going to be the next crew member towards the beginning of that? And then secondly, what did you think was going to happen with Luffy versus like the Luffy Usopp situation? Well, really, I'm interested in the crew. Like, how was that whole like setup and then the twist and everything like that in real time? Because I got to kind of binge it, so I don't remember my full thoughts. But are you able to remember kind of what your predictions were at the time, or were you even, like what were you thinking and feeling as that was going on?
So it was a really interesting time because I got caught up with the story like right before Davy Back fight started. So it was my Water 7 and Davy Back and all of that was like kind of my intro to theory crafting and everything like that. And I remember like some of my first theories were this guy on a bike has ice powers and he's riding the water on ice. So I got that right. And Bellamy's not dead and he's going to come back whenever Doflamingo's important. And when we got to Water 7, I really liked Kaku, but I was very against him joining the crew because I was like, Oda's not going to put 2 long-nosed guys on the crew. This is a red herring.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah.
So I was very vocal about that, even though I was drinking the Kaku Kool-Aid as far as like, this guy's a really nice guy. And I've said it before, but my favorite reveal in the entire series is the CP9 reveal. Like that was like, and I was even asked by some of the members, like, what's a chapter that I wish that I had read weekly with everybody, like did a live reaction to, and it's that, because I did not read the spoilers at that time. I did read spoilers through early Davy Back and like the first couple of chapters of Water 7, but I started to realize that the spoilers were like hindering my enjoyment, so I stopped reading them. And then it was like, we got the CP9 reveal, and I never went back to spoilers because I was like, I just experienced this like visually, and it just blew me away. That reveal was phenomenal. But I was Team Paulie until we got a flashback for Frankie, and then I was like, oh, this guy's joining. He just got a flashback. I liked Frankie. I didn't know if Oda was going to go that route though, and it seemed like he did a really good job of setting Paulie up though.
Yeah, so Paulie's a great character too for that arc. I would not have been upset if Paulie joined, but Frankie just turned out to be, the more fleshed out and more interesting character at the end of the day.
And now he's one of my top 3 favorite Straw Hats.
Nice. Yeah. All right, maybe just finish out the supers and then probably call it a day.
Yeah, let's finish these supers out. John678 said, Randy, can you convince Morj that the Saul death fake out was set up from the beginning and doesn't affect the emotions of Robin's backstory? So I love that Saul's alive. You don't.
I never contested that it wasn't set up. Like, yeah, he said ice time capsule. Congratulations. He set it up. That doesn't change the fact that most, like 99% of readers did believe that Saul was dead. And it 100%, you can't reread that backstory and feel the same emotions. You literally can't. It would be like watching the fucking Lion King and Mufasa dies. But then, like, at the end of the movie, Mufasa fucking comes back. No, I'm not gonna fucking cry anymore when Simba's, like, it's just, it's so ridiculous to say that the emotions are the same, because it's just, by that logic, no writer would ever kill any character if you can just bring them the fuck back later on, and technically the emotions of the original scene don't change. It's just, there's no argument. Like, it's absurd. It goes against what every great author ever has done when killing off characters, and what Oda has done when killing off. Like, it's just such a ridiculous argument, I don't even want to entertain it. But please go ahead. I'll listen to you. But there's nothing to say.
So for me, the emotional part of Robin's backstory is actually Olvia, not Saul. I'm okay with this, because unlike Pell, Pagaya, and some other, fake outs, Oda apparently, as far as we can see, has a plan for Saul and a magnet drawing us to him, a story relevant reason for keeping him alive. So
yeah, but to me, that's the bare minimum. If you're bringing this dude back, you'd better have at least something thought out. Well, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, but go ahead. My bad.
No, you're good. No, that's exactly right. It is the bare minimum. So everybody was complaining about Saul being alive, and I was like, why are you guys complaining about him actually doing it the right way for once? Like, this isn't Pell showing up to just be in the background to do nothing and just say maybe one line. This isn't Pagaya coming up to just be a joke. This is, we have to go to Elbaf to talk to this man. This man is alive for a reason. So when people were like, no, this is Oda, like doing another fake out, this is bad, I was like, no. This is actually really good, and it's good for Robin's character as well, because she didn't lose everything. Like, let our girl have a little bit of happiness. Let her have a little win. It's actually gonna be emotional when they get together.
I'll just give my quick thoughts, and then you can give your response, and then I think we can drop it on, because we're just not going to see eye to eye on it. To me, it's kind of I agree with what you're saying, but to me that only is a good argument in the context of One Piece, where normally Oda does it so ridiculously badly, where he just kills off a character, then brings them back with nothing to do. I think a normal level of bad would be you fake out a character death that severely, and then bring them back for some other plot reason. That's still bad. It's just that normally Oda just brings them back without even doing the bare minimum of at least, like, having something story-wise for them to do. So relative to Pell and Pagaya, Saul coming back is better, but by normal authors' writing standards, it's still bad. Does that make sense? Like, it's better than what he normally does, but it's also just like, just because it's better than what he normally does, that doesn't mean that in the grand scheme of things, it's not still, like, terrible to write a character death like that, in my opinion. To me, the other thing is kind of, yeah, I get that it's nice to see that Robin didn't lose everything, but to me, that's the power for getting the Straw Hats, because she did lose everything. The only thing that she got to take away from it was inherited will from Saul. And then she got what Saul promised that she would one day eventually get, which was Nakama that care for her. Right? To me, that's that is more powerful writing to me, when you do have the character lose everything, and then once you have the character go through that, they gain something even more powerful than what they lost. I think it's negated to a degree once the character gets back some of what they lost as well. It's similar to some of the problems I had with Sabo coming back after Luffy lost Ace, but I've moved past those. It's just, I don't know. I've moved past those. And it will be emotional when Robin sees Saul again. But,
because Saul can actually see what he promised she would have. And that's nice. That is nice.
To me, the Bellemere losing Nami, Hiriluk losing, or sorry, other way around. Nami losing Bellemere, Hiriluk and Nami, Corazon and Law. Yeah, it's nice if all these characters were able to come back to life or from heaven be able to take a look at what happens, but the power of storytelling is that the power of death in storytelling is that doesn't happen, right? That's the power.
Olvia is not going to see those things. Clover is not going to see those things.
You're right.
Saul is a guy. See, the thing is, the thing I do have to say, I know we wanted to drop it, but the thing I have to say here is that in that situation, Saul, in my opinion, is not the Hiriluk. He is not the Bellemere. The actual character that is Clover. Clover is the person that she was actually with, the person that trained her to be an archaeologist. Saul is some dude that washed up onto the shore 3 days before the worst day of her life, or however many days. So Saul being alive doesn't impact that because he didn't have as much time with Robin in the first place to actually formulate a meaningful relationship in the same way that Hiriluk, who was with Chopper for a year, Bellemere, who was like really, her adopted mother, some of these other characters that have popped up into the flashbacks, that was set for their role. Robin had other characters, which some of these other Straw Hats did not have as many central characters as Robin did in that flashback.
No, you're definitely right, but from the reader's perspective, right, the emotional dynamic that we got to actually focus on the most in the story was between Robin and Saul. So, ultimately Clover was probably the least significant focus out of Robin's backstory between the Saul, Olvia, Clover trio. Saul was the one, I feel like Saul is the one that most people think of when they think of Robin's flashback. Although I agree that Robin and Olvia was also very, very sad and tragic, and I think especially in the anime, Robin asking if she can hold Olvia's hand, that always makes me tear up. I agree. Robin did lose other things, she lost her entire village, etc. But to me, I think Saul was ultimately the centerpiece of her backstory, in terms of the actual focus that we got, and in terms of being the one who changed her perspective and imparted certain wisdom, certain will, etc. onto her. So to me, I think the fact that the backstory concludes with Saul as the final death, I think that that's very important because it's kind of a crescendo of Clover to Olvia to Saul. So I think cutting out that climax and making the climax hollow, that hurts a lot of the enjoyment of the backstory to me.
I see that, and I see where you're coming from. For me, it's, the person whose will she's actually inheriting, as she's going forward, is more so Clover and Olvia's than it ever was Saul's. Saul just wanted her to find
You're right
friends.
on that. I agree with you on that. I still think the dynamic that we focused on the most was Saul, right? That was the centerpiece of her backstory for the most part, I think.
And I think that more so was about having a Marine that changes his tune in the past, so that we can kind of reference back to that when we see similar things with Kuzan, adhering to Garp's teaching to Kobe recently, save the old man or save the child, and, we see that on display in Ohara as well from Kuzan, so he was obviously taught that as well. But when we see things like Smoker and Kuzan, Smoker eventually, and Kuzan already turning from the government, there's ways to look back to Saul, and if we get deeper into Egghead and we see things like Robin telling us about the Ancient Kingdom, getting into a conversation with the actual Stella and not one of the satellites about, the library of Ohara and things that are going on, and if certain characters, like, say, Smoker, hypothetically, he's there to hear some of this stuff, it would be kind of like Saul having learned a little bit from Olvia and realizing that he had a pit in his stomach and he wouldn't be able to go back to them after that. So
I feel like the writing that comes out of this, I will be heavily invested in, just because, you know, maybe like I've come around to liking Sabo and stuff like that. Well, Sabo wasn't really sold to us as dead anywhere, but that's a whole different thing basically. But you know, maybe I changed my mind on this later, but and I see where you're coming from for sure. But at the moment, it's just, you know, that's my favorite backstory in One Piece. So just like when people ask me like what makes you like what historically is the most emotional thing you've ever experienced in anything, right? Like movie, TV, manga, anime, etc. My go-to is always Robin's backstory. For me, I can no longer say that because I just can't look at the ending of it the same way personally. So that one's always going to be.
It's changed it that much for you.
It really has. But it's, you know, maybe things will soften over time. Maybe at some point I can go back and be like, you know, it's the same thing. But
depending on the day, it's either Chopper or Nami's for me.
Those are great picks because for me the top three are Chopper, Nami, Robin. Robin, I got 1. Nami, Chopper tied for 2 and 3. Those are my 3 favorite personally.
Yeah, those are the best. But it's like when you look at Robin's backstory and you look at those, it's like comparing Robin's to those would be you would need to have Hiruluk die, Kureha die, and Dalton die in the flashback. You know, you have to have Belmir, Genzo, and the Doctor die. You know, and then it's like, oh wait, but the Doctor wasn't actually dead, or you know, Dalton wasn't actually dead, and that's what we've got here. We had Clover, Olvia, and Saul. One of them is just alive, but 2 are dead. 2 out of 3, I'm still okay. It doesn't lose any value to me. Saul could still die and still have even more of an impact, but I think what he's doing for the story is better than him being dead. He's carrying on the will of Ohara, these people that he met for just a couple of days. They radically changed his life, and now he's devoted his life in secret to make sure that what they were doing didn't die. So it's actually, I think it's more powerful that he's alive. I think it's better for the story, but that's me.
I think we see where we're coming from. We can probably just leave it here for like I don't fully disagree. I just like you can't change emotions at a certain point. So I'm not looking at the backstory and I'm like, well, 2 out of 3, 66%. I'm 66% sad. Like, I don't know. It's just the way
we got to see where it goes. We have to see the execution. I like the idea of it, though.
I'm willing to wait. Yeah.
Kino the Far said, what do you think about each faction? Revolution Army, World Government, Straw Hats, Blackbeard, Cross Guild, RH, can't... Red-haired pirates. What do you think about each faction getting a Vegapunk? World Government wants York, and Lilith was saying she was excited for an adventure with the Straw Hats. If any of the satellites were to survive, I think Lilith is the one that lives. Just because she was the first one we were introduced to. But I think there's a world where all of the others die, except maybe York, who goes with Blackbeard, or the government gets her. But I think the Stella and Lilith could go with them, not as crew members, but to Elbaf. Because I think that there is something to a reunion between Vegapunk and Saul for context.
I could see that. I definitely agree if one of them's going to survive, Lilith being good. I could see some of the Stellas being spread around. My one thought is just that Mads is back, so I feel like not every faction, I feel like they would need to come into play in some way. Maybe need is a strong word, but I feel like at least one of the factions gets the knockoff Vegapunk, which is Mads, I suppose.
So you think that Oda is setting something up in the cover story with Caesar and Judge, and then they'll get a Vegapunk?
It goes somewhere, right? Yeah. It would go somewhere, right? Some group should ally with Mads, or like make use of Mads, I suppose, at the end of the day. Maybe that's thinking too much, but I don't know if everyone needs a Vegapunk if Mads fulfills at least one faction's need for science.
Yeah. I don't think everybody's getting a punk because 2 have already been killed, and I think the rest of them are going to get destroyed in this incident.
That'd be brutal.
Save maybe Lilith.
Interesting.
Oda's been trigger happy since the end of Wano.
No, he has. He really, really has. He's been on. It's not been the Oda I knew.
No,
Not
this
at all.
this is a brand
I'm
new
okay with
Oda.
it. I'm happy.
I like Final Saga Oda.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah,
Man took out Hawkins also. It's like, okay.
dude. Yeah. I still couldn't believe it as he started doing it. Like I didn't believe Lucia Kingdom was eradicated for the longest time, and even now I still have a hard time believing it. But it seems as though that's legitimately it happened. It's done.
It's
They're gone.
done. I mean, he did cop out and save a bunch of people though, including Moda.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, because that was my logic. I was like, there's no way Oda kills fucking Moda the milkmaid, and so he didn't. But he's still fine killing everybody else, or a lot of them. You know.
Yeah. R.I.P. King Seki. Muglatan said, how will the perception of Wano change over time? My perception of Wano, I'd say it can only get better.
I would say the same for myself, because my opinion of Wano is so low that while writing a video for Wano that I've been on and off on, like whatever, there's been aspects I've gone back and like appreciated more, because I'm like, okay, this was an interesting idea that he was working with. So my personal opinion of Wano has gone up over time, but still not, like, for me personally, not good. I think for overall, if I were to guess, right, I think there's two ways that it could go. The Wano anime has done a phenomenal job for like making certain sections of Wano way cooler.
Yeah.
Especially like aspects of Luffy versus Kaido. I hear that they just did I don't know if you're actually allowed to talk about this. If you can't talk about the anime, I'm not even.
I can talk about the anime, yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's like that's Japan. That's Japan, right? So, yeah. I think even they just did the flashback episode of the Wano people, right? And I haven't watched it, but from reactions I'm seeing on Twitter, I think a lot of people really enjoyed it. Whereas I think the manga chapter, I think a lot of people, when that manga chapter first came out, people were like, "What the fuck is this?" When we had that in the middle.
Yeah,
of the
why
climax.
are we spending a bunch of pages doing all this? I defended it though. I was like, no, this is good, because after all of everything that's been going on, we do need a reminder of what the stakes are and who we're fighting for.
I would agree that we do, but I feel like that's partly because that wasn't well done prior to the. Well, we don't need to go into that bit. Like, that's opinions that I'll save for a different day, I guess. But I would agree. And like at the end of the day, we're asking, are people's opinions of Wano gonna go up, go down over time? I think the anime could make like a lot of people like Wano a lot more. I think at the same time, one of the flip sides is like when people criticize certain One Piece arcs like Dressrosa or Whole Cake Island, I think a lot of the time, like week to week, I think a lot of the time people's opinions changed when they got to go back and binge them all in one go. I personally don't know if that will be the case for Wano, just because in my experience, like rereading Wano, for me with that arc, when you binge read, like at the moment, I think it's easy to just think of the highlights, like Gear 5th, etc. But Wano is an arc in particular that, at least when I binge read it, just more and more stuff stands out as just odd or bizarre or kind of pointless.
Yes.
Compared to like a Dressrosa or Whole Cake. Like, even just from fucking like the very first chapter that Wano begins with, like the first chapter is like Marco and Nekomamushi.
Hey, here's the letter. You know?
Yeah, here's the letter.
Give this message to
and
Luffy.
It's just like,
hey,
exactly,
I'm coming.
and it's just like, if you read Wano all in one go, chapter after chapter, things just stand out as bizarre or pointless storylines, basically. Like, Zora's entire storyline with Orochi, you're just going to be rereading that and just like, this is nothing. Like, we can just skip all of this, basically. I don't think that's the same as Dressrosa, Whole Cake Island, where it was more of a pacing issue. With Wano, it's more like you're reading it and it's just like a messy storyline, and that becomes more clear as you reread it. So, long-winded answer for the question is basically, I think people's perceptions of Wano will depend on the number of people that go back and like try the arc from start to finish. I think those people will view it as a worse arc. I think people that take away the anime highlights and kind of just remember Luffy versus Kaido or rewatch Luffy versus Kaido will think of it as a great arc. So, I don't know.
I'm interested in eventually, once One Piece is done with it in several years, going back and rewatching it in that way, because doing that heavily improved arcs that I was like lukewarm on, like Thriller Bark, Dressrosa. I always kind of liked Dressrosa, but it became a top 5 arc after I watched it on One Piece, and really started, just kind of reframe a lot of the things there. Whole Cake's the same way, but Wano is probably the only arc where there are just a bunch of things that I wish happened that didn't happen that actually affect my enjoyment of it a little bit. And it's things that Oda seemingly deliberately set up as well. So it's just these promises, and the only way that to fix that is if we go back to Wano for some of these things. And maybe we do, maybe we don't, but it's not for the anime to fix them. It has to be in the source material. But I reread Wano afterwards, and there's some of the best of One Piece in it, and then there's some of the worst, and even the worst is better than 90% of media. But it's just I went back, and one of the characters that really stood out to me is not really accomplishing much on a reread was Yamato.
We could go for days about Yamato, but I would agree.
Yeah. No, I every line that they say is very vapid and empty when you go back to the arc, because every other interaction is, I'm going to leave with the Straw Hats, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be free, and then they say that they're not. And also, I still feel like it was a last-minute addition by Oda. I think that he set up things for Denjiro and Marco to do, and I think Yamato took over and did those things. And that's my conspiracy theory, and while, they're an interesting character, I think they hurt the arc.
Yeah, the tricky thing with Oda is that I think with so many other series, you can easily feel when certain things are not planned, right? Like, I think that One Piece is known above almost all else, like besides world building. It's known for Oda being a great long-term story planner. So I always check myself before I if I have any opinion of like, maybe this is something Oda just made up, or like it wasn't planned from beginning, because he's so good at setting up so much stuff from beforehand that it's hard to, you kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt sometimes when it's like, okay, did he just make up Yamato for no reason or something like that? But then, you see in his notes and stuff, he'll be like, yeah, there weren't 9 scabbards, but I just had fun drawing them or whatever. So then I just like came up with more and more till I had 9. So,
and I think it would have been better with 4.
Does happen. It would have been a million times better with 4, because you really only need a few characters to carry that emotional storyline, and it dilutes the more and more characters you spread that out over. But Yamato, if I had to guess, does seem like something that he just made up. It's just that, like, so fucking far into the arc, like literally we're about to fight Kaido. Literally about to fight. Like we're at the final battle, and then we're coming up with this bullshit.
And we've already spent almost 100 chapters, going back and forth between Kaido, and there's never been a mention of this character.
Dude, I mean, the example I pull up is like, it'd be like if we're in Alabasta and Luffy's about to fight Crocodile in the capital city. And right then we find out about Crocodile's nephew. And Crocodile's nephew suddenly takes up like a fuck ton of screen time for like the finale of the arc dropped in out of nowhere. Never in the setup of the arc, never anything. And Crocodile's nephew just shows up, and his only lines are, I want to be a Straw Hat. I want to be free. I hate my uncle. And then he doesn't do it. Like, I don't know. And then he helps Vivi or something in the clock tower or something like that, or gives her a pep talk. That's basically Yamato's writing, but she has a hot character design, so people roll with it.
Yeah. Anyway,
I've spoken too much about Yamato here already, but that's genuinely how it feels, pretty much.
Yeah. And that's also the bad part of Math Piece, is I think that Oda was so obsessed with making sure that it was 100 chapters that he ended up putting too much in so that he could get to that number, and then not servicing some of the things that he needed to in order that he had already set up. So that's the there's cool parts of Math Piece, and then there's bad parts. Like Dressrosa being 100 chapters exactly was okay. Like he actually serviced all of the things that he needed to do, and I didn't feel at the end of Dressrosa like, okay, well, what about this?
Yeah, no, at Dressrosa you could never be like, oh, he didn't spend enough time on, like, fucking Send Your Pink got a backstory, so, you know.
Yeah, and that's fun. But yeah, man, that's all the chats. This has been an awesome collab. We hit a lot of topics. We were probably going to end half an hour ago, but even these little tangents that we went on were fun.
Yeah.
So everybody, drop those Morj plushies in the chat as a thank you for Morj being here.
No, I had a good time, man. Glad that we were finally able to, to fit in a Sunday that this worked for both of us. So definitely had a good time. Definitely good to hear your thoughts, because I think I haven't really gotten, you know, your temperature on certain things since the end of Wano, pretty much. So yeah.
Same.
Had a good time for sure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you, brother. And yeah, thanks again. Those chats are coming in. I'll see everybody for 1092 next Sunday. All right. And anything you want to promote, Morj, before we go?
No, I'm good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, though.
All right.
I've been swimming deep, deep.
Let me know when we're no longer live.